All right. Another Saturday night. Another Saturday night. Shoot the breeze. Okay, I can hear my sounds coming through. I'm a little bit late. The reason for that is because I've been waiting for a delivery, and these guys have been in my area for the longest and still hasn't delivered. So I was hoping not to get interrupted, but I might have to get interrupted during the show. So you guys just be mindful of that. You know the deal. I like to hop on early so I can give you a preview of the things to come tonight in our discussions. We're going to talk about Mizzy. I saw some posts about it. I never clicked on it because it just looks like foolishness. But we talk about this kid, Mizzy, and some stuff he did, and the police involvement, all that stuff. We're going to look at one of the arguments that the fat phobia camp likes to put out there. We're going to look at some videos behind that. We're going to get a little bit religious, I guess, in the sense that we have a problem here that's about Black Christians and have they fully tried the Bible's way of repentance and etc. We're going to look at another prompt about Garvey and MLK as far as being cursed and Jesus, etc. I know I'm being kind of vague because it's how the prompts are written. It doesn't give me enough, right? And then lastly, we're going to look at how deep and intricate the oppressor has us, right? So those are the topics for tonight. Drop a one if you can hear me. It looks like no one's here actually. So I guess no one's here. It's just me. That's all good. If anyone wants to join the panel tonight, just hit the link and you'll be entered onto the panel. In any event, what I'll do, I'll start the show officially now. And on the other side, I will drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. You guys stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is the...
Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion.
If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio, a Pan-African nationalist and Garveyite network committed to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
the Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people require too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down, it wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They're in the simulation. They're going to keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cassidra Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was going to do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The 4Kast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as, like, your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to,
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the program.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, Shoot the Breeze. It's Saturday night. I have a few panelists that have joined me, usual suspects. Let's welcome in Oni this week. Oni, how are you?
I'm cool. Yeah.
Good. Let's welcome in our boy, Buana. Buana, what say you?
What's good, brother? What's good? Yes, I'm good, man. I'm good. I hope y'all brothers is doing good too,
Yeah, hanging in there. Thanks for coming through. So, without further ado, hopefully more people will join us in the chat a little later on. But let's do Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 says, you pro-police? What should happen to Mizzy? So this there's 2 links for this. This is the first one we're going to check out is on Twitter. And it says, you guys should be able to see this, right? Yeah. So the first link takes us to Twitter. It says, TikTok menace Mizzy has posted a TikTok video hijacking the control room of a train and messing with the safety mechanism controls. The 18-year-old TikToker has been arrested twice within the last week. The first arrest stemmed from a home invasion video he filmed, breaking into a family home and filming it for TikTok. He was then fined in court and given a 2-year criminal behavior order. Days later, he was arrested for breaching the court order. He is now being held in custody and yesterday appeared in court on 3 separate criminal charges. Source, the Daily Mail. This came with a video. We'll check it out.
Hey, let me get there. Hey, let me get here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, the man in the street. We outside. Hello, can I call the police? The people on the train. Reality. How is it? Hey, what? How did you get there? Hey, let me get in here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, the man in the street. We outside. Hello, can I call the police? The people on the train. Reality. How is it? Hey, what? How did you get there? Hey, let me.
All right. So that was that one tweet. Let me see if there's any more to that tweet. Just a few people saying what a silly dilly and stuff like that. So let's go to the next link. By the way, you guys in the chat, let me know. Have you heard of this kid, Mizzy, before? I'm not a TikToker, so I have no idea. Let me know if you guys. Wait, did I? Oh, crap. My bad. Let me grab the proper link. Let me know if you guys in the chat know who Mizzy is, as I pull the proper link this time. This one takes us to YouTube. We'll watch, and then we'll... Wait a minute. No. This is about... My bad. Hold on a second. Did I get this messed up? In the meantime, Buana, have you heard about Mizzy before?
I never heard about him before. The first time I'm seeing him. But I would say, see, the last time I had this kind of conversation, when I was saying that you should punish your parents, I got a lot of flack from that, because the folks was telling me, well, it's not right to punish parents for the action of the children. Okay, no problem. But in this instance, I'm asking, in your right mind, because obviously this young person he's not in his right mind. He doesn't know how to drive a train. He doesn't know how to operate a train. Suppose children was on that train and you pull in stunts like this, and you don't know how to operate a train, and then the train starts and it doesn't stop and crashes into another train. Who am I supposed to blame for that? I'm supposed to blame the child? Okay, I'm blaming the child. But I'm like, what should happen to him? He should be arrested and put under the jail. You know what I mean? Because obviously this man doesn't know how to operate like a civilized human being in a civilized society. What would make him go at the head of a train and start pressing buttons when you don't know what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen with the train? What's gonna happen to the people sitting on the train? Do they deserve that kind of treatment and punishment because of this man's silliness? I don't know.
All right, thanks for that, Juan. I think what was happening here is the start of the video shows Tina Turner, and I thought it was a Tina Turner video, but I guess this part might get into Mizzy here on Pairs. So let's see what this video is about.
Honestly, behaving like complete morons. In California, a YouTuber and pilot faced 20 years in jail for crashing an airplane to get more subscribers. Others have jumped from city buildings, taken on wild animals, crashed cars, you name it. However mad it is, someone has tried it just for the clicks. And all in the name of becoming Insta-famous. This week, a social media prankster named Mizzy has generated headlines and abject outrage for so-called pranks, which mostly involve just terrorizing innocent bystanders.
Get into random houses, let's go.
James.
James.
Hello. You got a nice dog?
Big gang, whole lot of gangs. We outside.
I'm perfectly fine. You're gonna die. Serious question, you're gonna die.
Well, as public anger grew this week, London's Met Police announced they were looking for Mizzy, real name Bakari Bronzagaro. The law caught up with him, and today he was fined £365 and given a criminal behaviour order, which is supposed to ban him from posting to social media without the written permission of the people in his videos. You might think that's not much of a punishment or much of a deterrent. But what does he think? Well, fresh from the courtroom, he's here now. All right, well, good evening to you.
Hello, Piers. Long time no see.
What do you mean, long time no see?
Last time I hopped on your thing with my friend.
Oh, that's right. You appeared in the background, didn't you?
Mate. Yeah, mate.
Okay, well, I'm not your mate. What I am is an interviewer I'm curious about what has been motivating you to terrorize the people around where you live. Why do it?
I wouldn't really call it terrorizing. I'll just call it more having fun. But let's get this out of the way first. I apologize. You see this situation that blew up on the internet, the walking into random houses? The next day, I apologized to the woman because I felt bad, innit? Like, deeper than social media. Like, it went deeper than social media. That's why I didn't record it. She recorded me apologizing to her. I told her sorry, and she explained that she was terrified because her children were in the house. And I understood
What were you doing in the house?
What was I doing in the house? I don't know. It was a stupid video. Like, I got peer pressured to say. I don't want to say it like in that way, but...
Well, somebody else's fault.
I'm not blaming it on no one else.
I mean, you break into a house with a woman and a husband and two young kids.
I went into the house on my own accord.
No, I'm just saying, okay, you went through their door, right? But it's not your house. You're not supposed to be in there.
Oh, no shit.
You are causing a lot of alarm to that poor woman and to her children who are in the house. You then terrorize this poor elderly woman and take her dog away and traumatize her.
For the story about that, hang on. Let me speak. Yeah, because no. Let me speak. I'm
going to tell you.
Let me talk about that situation.
No, for the viewers who wait a minute. For the viewers who don't know what you've done.
Hold up.
I'm going to tell them. So you hold on.
Right now.
No, you can hold on.
Right now.
I'm explaining.
They know what's been happening.
Don't just keep talking like an idiot. Right? Don't. Let me finish what the viewers don't know you did. You go up and you do these things. You take a dog from an elderly woman. You leapfrog over the top of an Orthodox Jewish man standing at the side of the road minding his own business. You go up to women in the street and say, do you want to die?
It wasn't a woman, it was a man. And she even
There were also women that you did this to.
There was a woman there, but I only say it to the man.
Right. You shouldn't be saying it to anybody.
Fair enough.
Why, in the name of so-called prankster humor, why cause so much alarm and distress to so many people? Do you get your kicks out of doing that?
Not necessarily, but you could say that this whole public outroar just makes me laugh because people are getting hurt over something that didn't happen to them. And that's how I see it as.
What do you mean?
People are getting hurt over something that didn't happen to them. Everyone acts like they have this persona like they don't care. Social media is a facade, this, that, and the other. But when me comes out and does the mad thing, everyone has something to say.
It's not a mad thing.
It's the mad thing. It's the mad thing. You already said it's the mad thing.
It's a mad thing. No, it's not mad. It's moronic. It's the kind of thing anybody could do, and you do it for kicks and you do it for clicks, and you get your little moment on TikTok, and presumably your peer group that you referenced earlier, they all think, good on you, Mizzy, this is hilarious. Meanwhile, some poor woman thinks you've stolen her dog and is traumatized. Another woman has her 2 kids, and you're bursting into their house uninvited.
All right.
Right, you're jumping on Jewish people.
See, I was
right, who are already
Jewish people. Hold up, wait a minute, wait, no, stop.
You did.
Cool, it was a Jewish person, cool. But there was a trend going around on TikTok called 300. I've been listening to numerous people, black people, white people, age, any types of people. I don't discriminate. So don't stop saying Orthodox Jewish person like I only targeted him and it was only him that I went for.
Why are you targeting anybody in that manner?
What do you mean, why am I targeting anyone? It was a trend. It was a trend. I just done it for a trend.
What's the trend? What's the trend?
300, jump over someone at the time of the beat.
However much you scare them.
However much you scare them.
Or even if you push them into a car.
No, that didn't happen though, because I saw
it. Didn't happen by chance.
It didn't happen.
A lot of the stuff that you do could have consequences far more serious. But you don't care, do you? As long as you get a laugh.
I have remorse for all of these things.
You don't have any remorse.
What do you mean I don't have any remorse? How are you telling me?
You have no remorse.
Are you in my life? Do you live in my life?
Huh?
Are you there for my pranks? Have you been there in my life?
What's your life? Tell me.
You tell me my life.
Presumably, this is whether...
Presumably,
you're
about
to tell me the sob story, are you? What's the sob story?
There's no sob story.
Well, go on then. What's so bad about your life that makes you do this?
My whole life, innit? I just do it for fun. On or off camera, I do my thing.
Tell me about your life. What justifies this? What's happened to you that makes you think you're justified in doing this?
What do you mean tell me about my life?
Well, you said you don't know anything about your life. Tell me about your life.
You're trying to get on to me because I'm black. Because I guarantee
because you're black.
Person, yeah, I guarantee.
I don't give a damn about your skin color.
Really?
No.
Pairs.
Why would I care what colour your skin is? Really? I just think you're an idiot.
Oh, thank you. I think you're an idiot too.
That's fine. You're perfectly entitled to.
Yeah, so are you. So
this
like,
show's
fine.
called Uncensored. I think you're an idiot for what you've been doing. Okay. I also think you're an idiot for playing the race card when no one's mentioned your skin colour.
Really? Okay, you don't have to mention it to...
I don't care about your skin colour, Lizzie. I care about the fact that you've been terrorising all these people for a sustained period of time. I also care about the fact you've only got a tiny fine today, no deterrent to you whatsoever. You don't show any real remorse. You don't really care, do you?
The UK laws are weak, simple as. And that's not, the UK laws are weak, simple as, and that's not my fault. That's not my fault. Like in America...
What do your family make of what you've been doing?
What do my family make? Well, I don't chat to my mum anymore. And
why not?
Why not? Because I just don't talk to her. It's irrelevant to you, but I just don't chat to her, innit? And what else? My sisters are calm, but like obviously they don't fully commend what I do, but...
Do any of your family condemn what you do?
No, of course not. Like obviously...
They think it's all perfectly normal?
No, there's certain videos that they'll be like, no, you can't be doing that. Like especially just walking into the random houses one. Certainly not. But that was more of a spur of the moment thing. I just got egged on and my ego got a hold of me. And I realized that at that moment, and that's why I went to apologize the next day. After it all blew up out of proportion, and I felt like bad personally.
I don't think you felt bad.
Okay, well you can say that. You can say that. I'm telling you.
I think you felt bad.
No, see, you're interrupting me. Why are you interrupting me? I'm talking. I'm talking.
Carry on being an idiot.
Okay, we are siding the districts every time.
I'm actually not going to call you Mizzy because it's obviously a stage. I'll call you Bakari Bronze, right?
All right.
Bakari Bronze, let's try and talk to each other as human beings.
All right, Piers.
All right? Yeah, I'm trying to understand why there's no real remorse here. Why do you not understand
what do you mean why there's
the
no
consequences of your
I
actions
went to go apologize off social media. I could have recorded that apology and that would have been another viral video, whether it's hate or whatever. Literally, hate brings money, hate brings likes, hate brings views. It doesn't matter. Love or hate, it brings views.
Why do you prefer to do the hateful stuff?
It's not like I prefer to do the hateful stuff. It's just like it's easier to do the hateful stuff.
Why are you laughing?
And
it's fun.
Obviously, I don't think it's fun, but you're a funny person.
You do think it's funny?
You're a funny person.
You do. I've seen the videos. You do think it's just really funny.
At the time, I think it's funny. My fan base thinks it's funny, and it's we outside, innit? It's a movement. But deep down,
what's the movement?
Deep down, being free and not letting anyone tell you nothing. That's why I can do all of this stuff. I'm the most hated person on the internet right now.
No, you're not. Most people don't know who you are.
Okay then, whatever you say, innit? Whatever you say.
Most people watch this will have never heard of you and care
whatever you
even
say,
less.
well, now they are. You just brought it to me. Now they are.
They'll just look at the way you're behaving now and they'll think, yeah, he's a complete moron.
All right, and you're a complete moron. You keep cutting me, interrupting me when I'm trying to talk.
Because you keep talking in this animated manner, trying to stop me asking you any questions. And then you say, is it because I'm black? As if somehow it's about a racial
thing. He's going back to the race card. Why are you going back to that? I said that once.
No, you mentioned it.
I mentioned it once.
I've never once mentioned your skin colour.
All right, cool. Go on.
I don't care what colour you are.
All right.
If you were white, I'd have exactly the same view about your moronic behaviour.
All right.
But I'm curious, who in your family is there to tell you this?
Why do you need to go to my family? I'm my own person, so talk about me.
Because you
don't.
don't.
No.
Because you don't
talk about me, not my family.
Yes, but here's the problem.
What's the problem?
You are clearly a product of your upbringing.
No, I'm not. I'm my own person. I've always been my own person.
You've had no one to tell you this is wrong.
Of course, people have told me it's wrong. Family, friends, everyone's told me it's wrong.
Who's told you it's wrong?
What do you mean? My own mother told me it's wrong. There's been situations between me and my mum.
Right. So your mother doesn't like what you're doing.
Of course, yeah.
So why don't you stop doing it? Because my mother told me to stop doing something.
Okay, and that's your mother. You listen to your mother. You listen to somebody else. I'm my own person. I'm legally an adult now, so I can do what I want.
What are you going to do now?
What am I going to do now? Twitter, Mizzy is banned, and I'm going to be on Twitch. Yeah, I'm going to start streaming on Twitch, IRL streams, gaming streams. My Twitch is Mizzy is live if you want to get at that. But yeah.
And do you want to try and come up with a sincere apology or not?
No, I don't need to come up with no sincere apology. I already have my own remorse, and I already.
You don't have any remorse, do you?
What do you mean? Okay, then whatever you.
To you, it's all a bit of a joke. And if you steal some old woman's dog, it's all a bit of fun. If you jump on a Jewish man, it's all a bit of fun. If you run into people's houses with young kids and terrorize them, it's all a bit of fun.
But what I'm saying to you
nothing
is,
really matters.
What I'm saying to you is, there's been plans to change up everything. And you're just no help in it. You just talk your own thing. You have your own set morals, and so that's you.
No, it's not about morality. I just
think, cool. Whatever you say, I was still talking. You interrupt me again, Piers.
Okay,
Piers Morgan, why'd you keep interrupting me?
Let me tell you, we're going to put both of ourselves out of this misery, and we'll just end it there because you
should end it.
As I said at the start, you're just a complete moron.
And so are you.
So until you stop being a moron, you will be treated like a moron. You are Mizzy,
the man didn't really
the moron. For the
Boxing
record,
match
he
in
wasn't
August.
paid for this,
Boxing match in
obviously.
August.
I
We
feel like
outside.
paying viewers, actually, if I'm just
Keep
put up
sharing
with
the
it.
stream.
I will say the mother, parents do have some responsibility in this. This can't just be a kid just went wayward because of some friends in school or something like that. That was being discussed last week. Something needed to go down in the home with this kid, and we should be able to see that if called into question, because this is just utter nonsense. This is one of those kids who was allowed to. You could tell. Ketter says the kid seems like he's Caribbean, right? Like, this is that nonsense where they let this kid have the run of the house and then he spilled that shit outside. You know, we got to be real about this. Buana, I'll let you comment again since we played that whole video just now.
No, like I say, I get a lot of heat in terms of blaming parents. I get a lot of heat for that. And I understand the ideas behind saying, well, these children have a mind of their own, and even when you try to give them good values and principles to stand by, they have a mind of their own to do certain things. But this person is a teenager. What is confusing to me is when you could spend maybe 20 hours out of the day, let's say 16 hours of the day with your child, and you telling them and trying to influence him in doing the right things, and then the child may spend like 2 hours, 3 hours with their friends, whose impact is more influential than you spending 16 to 20 hours with your child a day, where that 2 hours in what they spend with their friends will influence them to do all manner of ridiculous things. And they will forget the whole 16-hour time period you spending with them and trying to influencing them on the right ways and civilized ways in behaving in so-called civilized society. There must be something within them 16 hours that's causing that child to behave in this manner. You know what I mean? And I feel like you have to be responsible for some of that. This person is still a teenager. This person is not an adult yet. You know what I mean? So I think that parents should be held into a certain account for what they would have produced. You know what I mean? Regardless for you to tell me, well, you know, it's not just the parents, it's the child itself. The child itself is bent. Well, I think that you had some influence over what the result would have been. Because I don't understand how is it that this person in their minds, even in the so-called TikTok age, or age of information, or age of clout chasing, that this child in his mind would think it's okay to walk into a person's house with not being given permission to walk into a random person's house and tape it on film, or steal a person's dog, or go on a public train system and start pushing buttons. You know what I mean? So if he is a teenager and he can't be held in account or to be responsible for the person's actions, this person, he got what, 360 pounds, and maybe some time off, 2 years time off of doing what he did. So if he is not to be held accountable for his actions, who is? Obviously, I feel it's the people who would have been responsible for this young person, you know, at certain times in his life. I personally feel that way. I understand the other side of the conversation, but I personally think that parents should be held into account some of their children's actions. I believe that. And I could be wrong on that, but I believe that. This person, his brain ain't properly developed yet to be able to understand the gravity of some of the things he's actually doing. And I would ask, just like Piers Morgan and I don't find a Piers Morgan either, by the way. Where would he have gotten these kinds of ideas? Where would he? And this is why he asking these kinds of questions. And I'm cautious because Piers Morgan, who I do think he is a racist, he is creating a narrative of this black young boogeyman in the UK. This boogeyman who is always into criminality. He's the scapegoat of that society. This is what the British do. You know what I mean? They bully for creating these little narratives. And in British society, so-called high British society, they must have their scapegoats. And in their society, the scapegoat is the black immigrant, the bad, nefarious black immigrant, or the children of the black immigrant coming from Africa or the Caribbean. So they have this boogeyman that they try to create, and he is using this young boy, as the boogeyman of their society, unfortunately. And he is gonna be the example for all black men, all black British men, when so-called white society sees a young black British man. And Piers Morgan is creating this narrative, whether this young guy knows it or not. And I just, like I say, man, you gotta be some of the things we need to do. We need to consider what is the long-term effect of our actions, what we doing in these so-called societies. But I'll leave it there. I'll leave it.
I appreciate that, Buana. I do believe that, like you, I believe that parents have to be accountable to something. I think it's does someone have their mic on? Please mute that. I think that's strange that folks believe that parents should be accountable. Let me hit the chat real quick. Shout out to KW Don 7 who's here. Shout out to Keta. Keta said gun laws are strict in the UK. In the US, he would have already been gotten popped. Shout out to the matron. Greetings to the matron. Matron, how are you doing? Matron says this is the problem with allowing views to drive content. I thought that was a real good point as well. This views driving content thing is a bit problematic on several different fronts. Shout out to Jonelle, who's here. Zuliism is out there in the chat. He says he should be arrested, fined with community service. If he continues, jail. Keto says he needs to get smacked around so he could check himself. From the name, I guess he has Caribbean parents. They should smack the shit out of him. I agree with that. See, there's something called cut ass back home. You will respect a cut ass now. You know? Zuliism said being free, nobody telling you what to do. When he gets shot, then they will say it's because he is black. Let the cops tell him, I guess. This guy is dumb, but that's what society wants. Matron says prank culture is a global phenomenon because Jackass showed people it could be profitable. He needs stronger consequences. Azuli says social media and leftist Democrats are their role models. That's an interesting take. Tragabi 262 is out there. He says it don't seem like he has parental presence if he don't talk to his mom. Well, you have to have it at some point, right? You had it at some point, and when it started to get out of hand, where she and him don't communicate, something else has to be done. You know, something else has to be done. Without further ado, though, let's hear from Oni on this. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, can you hear me good? I got a new audio set up.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sound a little distant, but it's fine.
Damn. Okay, something's wrong. All right. I'll try to fix that later. But yeah, about this kid. Yeah, like Juana was saying, the mother should go to jail. No, I'm just messing. No, I think obviously, you know, parents have a role. And you know, parents, but the reality is this, that parents fail, and we should come to expect that parents are gonna fail. You know, we don't have institutions to make sure parents succeed. Like even I could say, hey, did I get a thorough introduction to parenting before I had a child? No. And what about my plans in regards to parenting? How did that come to fruition? Like it didn't. You know, that's the cold reality that we live in a situation where 9 times out of 10 you're going to fail as a parent. 9 times out of 10 you're going to fail as a parent. And I say 9 times out of 10 because of something I know is kind of popular in America to say, which is those who fail to plan to fail. And most people are not really planning out how to parent. That said, I would hold Mizzy accountable. Obviously, I think there's 2 things to this. I think one is that people are growing. I don't know where I said this before, but I said it before. People are aging faster than ever. You know what I mean? 16, 15 isn't the same as it used to be. Now, I'm not going to say that people weren't called fast back in the day, right? But that was just sex. Now we have violence. Now we have, music careers. Now we have, celebrity when you're a child, right? Which was not really a thing once upon a time. At least of all, something like that. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna fix this. I don't think my mic is working. So long story short, what I'm saying is that I think Mizzy should get punished. But see, I think part of the question of being, you pro police, do you think the police should get in the way, right? I think I think that kind of shows the contradiction. Not contradiction, but it shows that, ultimately, in the West, you expect this white boy to clean your community. Obviously, I think he should get the heavy hand of his parents, but we have to come to terms with the reality of this. Your mother doesn't have a heavy hand. Once you get a certain age, your mother is not a disciplinarian. You know what I mean? Unless she's I don't know. I was gonna say Ronda Rousey. Well, what's the name of the Muhammad Ali's daughter? But I was like, but you said what? Layla, Layla Ali. Right? Unless your mother's Layla Ali, she's not gonna be giving like discipline, real talk. Obviously this boy probably doesn't have, like he's doing what we call fatherless behavior. But at this point, fatherless behavior is like the majority behavior in the West. Like it's the majority behavior in the West. That said, it's like if you see some of his videos, he's not the only kid. He's just the leader of the kids. And all I would take away from this is that the kid seems like he's stupid. I was introduced to him earlier. At the time, I was kind of outraged, like, yeah, he should go to jail or whatever, right? Now I don't really care too much because it's already, you know how we are with the attention span of a goldfish. But like, yeah, somebody like this kid needs something, is what I would say. And that video of him threatening those people, that was like crazy. He's just standing in front of these guys and he's just like, do you want to die? Like, do you want to die? And they're just like, what? Yeah, he's a social menace, but it kind of speaks more to the to the reality that, you live in these societies that are structured, and we kind of take for advantage that if you didn't have these strong police presence in a sense, right, that these lunatics would be unchecked, or everybody would just be killing each other, something like that. Like you could have social cacophony. That's what I could say. I'm going to try to fix my mic, by the way. All right.
Yeah, only thanks for that. But I would say only that 9 out of 10 gonna fail as a parent. I don't believe that's that 1 second, and I don't believe that stuff is set in stone. But Bonnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't particularly believe that either. I don't believe that. And if you think you're gonna fail, maybe you're gonna fail. Matter of fact, you should switch that to I'm gonna succeed as a parent, and maybe that your statistics might improve a little bit. Don't plan to fail. Plan to succeed. But what I would say also is that why do we have to be at the destructive end in terms of cloud chasing and trying to earn money? We live in a so-called information age. He could be producing an app. Why he can't make an app where people want to enjoy his app or using his app? The Chinese little kid creating apps, the little white kid from Silicon Valley producing apps and doing different things with technology. Why he want to be at the service end of technology where he have to show his ass and be as destructive and terrorizing as possible? And I mean, you live in an information age where you're trying to create a service and improve these societies, and make societies better for people, rather than living in a society where you try to exhibit the most destructive element of what a human being could be. You know, I don't understand. I really don't understand that. Why do you want to be the court jester of humanity? You know what I mean? Why don't try to do something a little bit different? We already done play this little court jester game. You know, you don't have to do these things, because at your fingertips you have all other aspects of technology where you could forge another way. Just try it. But these guys, they steeped in destructive behaviors, elements where we try to be the worst of the worst of the worst. What is the get off in doing that? What is the get off on doing that? Where you have at your fingertips so much other ways in getting monies for yourself and being competitive in this world. You decide to put a camera to yourself and break in a house, steal people's dog, harass old people. What is in your mind making you believe that that's okay? Cloud chasing, the fact you getting people to click your link. I think that this really have to do with being noticed and recognized. These people feel like they are unseen, and that's unfortunate. But I think that a better way of being seen is producing something that people could benefit from. I don't think that people could benefit from watching an old man getting abused, or you breaking into a train and pressing buttons where some harm could occur to you. You know what I mean? That's a jail sentence. I don't know, man. I don't know. If this is the direction our people going, I have to fight against that, because I do not agree with it, because I feel like it's an alternative way in trying to be productive rather than destructive and terrorizing towards people.
I think another thing too that comes to mind for me is that it's quite possible that his ma and them was on some version of nonsense back in the day too. Because we forget that sometimes. We forget that dusty Negroes often have children with other dusty Negroes, right? And produce this type of nonsense too. So it could be something like that as well, which goes back to Oni's point about initiations and institutions. However, there is a serious problem, to echo what Buana's saying. There's a serious problem where everything we tend to do in terms of cloud chasing is low vibrational, as my boy D Webb would say. Like, why is everything so low vibrational all the time? You know, and that's something we have to really sit down and figure this shit out. Those of us who have a better understanding of what it takes in life to be great, we got to sit down and figure out how to get it across to these folks. Yo, this is low vibrational stuff. You went in someone's house and took a dog. Like, what the fuck were you like? Why? Why would you do it? You know? Anyway, does anyone have any last thoughts on this, bro?
Yeah, I do want to talk about. I did. I remember some lady I was talking to, and here's the weird thing about it, right? She had a son, right? You know, old enough to, know enough, but at the same time, she was just, like she was kind of like a bad person, let's say, right? And I think that's another thing that we kind of overlook, that, yeah, you could be a parent, you could be a bad person with a kid. You know what I mean? And it's like you might produce a bad kid that you can't control. But it's like, what can you do as a society really to prevent such a thing? I sometimes listen to some other podcasts, and they like to talk about the Claudine and the welfare situation. And what happened with the welfare situation is that sometimes the government, the American government, is demonized because they would say, hey, you know what, you can't have a man if you're receiving welfare, right? And principally, by the way, do I sound better? I can't tell. But principally, the government would say, okay, cool. So the government would say, you can't have a man in your house, right, and be on welfare, right? And a part of me, if I was looking at it from a governmental standpoint, it's kind of like welfare is proportional to how many children you have. And I mean, I was actually, let me say, I was in the grocery store. I had like about, I had maybe like 4 bags of groceries, right? The woman in front of me had a cart of, I would say, 10 or 15, maybe 12 bags of groceries, right? I couldn't afford no 12 bags of groceries. This woman walked away, swiped her card, and got that all for free from her government, or from our government, I guess, right? And so the government's just giving you free food, more or less, right? But at the same time, what the government is, what the government might say is, hey, look, you can't be living up with no man, basically giving him that free food, or having more children so that we have to pay you more money, because you might not even be a good person, you might not be a good parent, but those kids need to eat and you need to eat, right? That said, that part of the law is demonized in the Black community, saying, hey, look, why are you trying to keep men out of our household? Or why are you trying to limit, our sexual activity? Or why are you so on and so forth? Now, of course, the argument can be, well, you need men in the house, right? But at the same time, it's like, what kind of men do you need in the house, right? Do you need men who are not contributing to financing the family, or do you need like a the 7th kid, if you will, and so I think that if we talk about what kind of solutions could be put into place, right, for, let's say, if for instance Missy's mother is a bad woman, is a negative woman, right, and she can't control this kid, obviously, right, so what kind of social mechanism should be put into place? Because yeah, like I would like somebody to explain what should be done, like what could be done if Missy's mother were a bad woman.
I could tell you right away. You made an important statement. You said that, only said that should we don't want to limit people's sexual activity. I disagree with that statement, because if you are having children on top of children and children on top of children, and I am being made to pay for that, because you see, when you saw the lady with 12 bags or a whole grocery cart of groceries or whatever, who is paying for that if not for the taxpayer? So I should have a right to say, hey, if you don't limit your sexual activity where you're having children on top of children, I shouldn't have to pay for that. So we can send you to the clinic, and we gonna, when you say neutered, that's the right word to use. We gonna cut off your ability to produce children on top of children on top of children, where I have to reach down in my pocket and pay for all these children that you are producing. Problem sorted.
I don't want to be that guy, but I remember saying right here on Shoot the Breeze that folks shouldn't keep having children that you can't maintain, right? And some of you guys on the panel was telling me I was wrong for thinking that way, but that's exactly what I said before. You cannot have these folks out here lousy folks, breeding with lousy people, and creating a whole generation of louses for the rest of us to have to deal with, to have to mind and take care of. Not only you're not being removed on my end, it's something with your thing. You know?
I know it's my thing. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, only if you want to respond to what Buana had to say, make it brief.
Yeah. So the whole forced sterilization of women, that's a tough subject. That's what I'm saying. Like, what happens is that in America, there is this, this sort of deep victim mentality, so to say, so that what happens is that, you're going to get a lot of pushback no matter what, even if it's something reasonable, like I said, of, hey, you know what, you shouldn't be involved with a lowlife. You shouldn't be involved with a dude who's not trying to take care of your children, right? Because we're paying, even that sort of a statement is getting a lot of pushback from the community. And now you got, like you said, you have forced sterilization, right? That, like, when you say, hey, you should neuter people if they want to get welfare or something like that, right? That's going to trigger forced sterilization. So what happens is that, realistically, the U.S. government is put into this position where no matter what might sound reasonable, right? No matter what might sound reasonable, you're going to get pushback. And I think that's one of the issues that I kind of come to terms with when it comes to looking at the American situation and trying to extrapolate it to a bigger, wider narrative, because the American situation is really unique. That's why I don't even push back against the FBA or the ADOS anymore. I just kind of block them on site. But, like, real talk, if they're saying, hey, look, our situation is unique and our solution is probably unique too, like, let them. Because realistically, they're in, I was thinking about it this way. I'm supposed to actually type it. I'm supposed to type it. But this is the kind of thing I was going to type, which is something on the lines of, it was like, if any rhetoric in colonial Africa, right, that didn't conclude removing the colonial apparatus, right, wasn't really liberatory. But then what happens inside of America is that what we call the liberation rhetoric has nothing to do with removing the colonial apparatus. And because of that, a lot of our people are going to be confused. A lot of our people are confused. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm not for any eugenics. I'm not for the government clipping nuts like D Webb is saying here. I'm for, I guess Trigger Happy 262 might have said it earlier. I'm for a cultural change that says, hey, let's be realistic here. If you know you can't take care of a bunch of children or any children, how about don't have them? And I think within family structure, this is why I'm so big on family. I'm thinking within family structures, people are supposed to be telling each other, listen, you going and lay up with that fellow over there? Listen, you're going to lay up with that woman over there? To do what? To make children that leave for grandma or someone to have to raise the burden on grandma to have to raise these kids who come from two, I hate to sound like that, but who come from two dusties and likely will be dusty themselves. Now I got to try to control them and maintain them. I've seen that enough back in my hometown. I've seen it enough here in America. Like, we need to get serious about our situation. How we procreate, how we multiply. We got to get serious about this stuff. Anyway, without further ado, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 is this helpful information? So this is why when I do the preview, I can't even speak to the prompt because I don't know what this is. This takes us to a video. We'll watch it and then we will discuss it.
aim is get as much money into investment holding as you can.
Yeah.
So psychologically, what we've done is we've it's all psychological, strategy here. But the psychologically, what we've done is we've separated our money from the business's money.
Yep.
You say, Don, isn't it my business? It is, but the business eats cash too, and it's very hungry. So you need to protect the business at all costs because the business is what pays you.
Yes.
So you've got to protect that operating expense account. You got to protect the tax account because, I have a dear friend who just called me recently and said, Don, they've shut down, the government has come in and shut down my operating expense account because she didn't pay state taxes. So the state came in and shut it down. And I said, how much money was in your tax account? She said, I didn't have one. I was just paying it out of my operating expense account. So it's very important that we separate that money. She's fine, by the way. We were able to get her through it, and she's fine. But the real key is when you ask yourself how successful is your business, I have one question for you. How much money is your investment holding account?
Ooh.
Because that's the real money.
Yeah.
Now, here's the trick. Here's what old white people know.
Come on, talk to us. Talk to us.
What old white people know, and more African Americans are figuring it out. And the more African Americans figure this out, the better off our overall American economy is. And that is this: investment holding. You can spend it if you want to buy a bass boat. Spend it if you want to buy a house. What I did with it is I bought a house because I knew in the luxury market in Nashville this thing is going to make a ton of money. But now that the house is paid off, what I do with that is I put it into stocks. I put it into equity in other small businesses. I put it into products, if you will, CDs, treasury bonds, stocks. I put it into products that make me money without me having to work. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So you want, even if it's $50, go buy a treasury bond.
Come on.
And just get that money away from you. Now, here's what happens. You make an extremely conservative 5% on the money you invest. I probably make 8 to 10, and I'm not an investor, so there's other people making a lot more.
Yeah.
But you make at least 5%. So if you put $100,000 into investments, it is making you $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of a year, you got 105. At the end of the next year, you got about 111.
Yep.
So on and so on. So we all know the power of compound interest. So I have a group of interns that all just graduated from Tennessee State. And we're sitting around the conference table, and I said to them, look, you're driving down the street, your car, you're about to throw a rod in that engine. It's gone. These kids are, they're just barely out of college. And I said, you see a Toyota 4Runner and it's $10,000. How much does that truck cost? And they looked at me like, didn't you just say it cost $10,000? I'm like, how much does it cost? They said $10,000. I said, wrong. Because in order to get that $10,000 as an entrepreneur, you had to put $10,000 into taxes.
Ooh.
So you had to earn $20,000 to get that $10,000 truck. And I said, how much does it cost? And they said, 20 grand. I said, wrong. Let's say you took that $10,000 and you put it into investments. Well, you're going to get 5% on that investment, which means in 20 years, that $10,000 turns into $20,000. So the opportunity cost on your truck is $10,000 extra, meaning 20 years from now, that Toyota 4Runner is going to cost you $30,000. Take an Uber. Now, here's what really blew their minds is that let's say that you keep doing this. And I know everybody listening is like, this dude is talking about money. You have no idea how much money you were going to have 24 months from now. You really don't know.
Right.
And you might have to manage it. And I would say just be prepared. And if you can manage the small money this way, then when it gets big, you start rolling in it, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is somebody like Warren Buffett, let's say he's got $100 billion in investments. He has actually more than that.
Yeah.
But let's say he's got $100 billion. How do the 1% of the 1% get this money and create this wealth disparity in our country? And there's a massive wealth disparity. And by the way, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But how does it happen? Well, if he's got $100 billion in his investment that he took out of his investment holding and put it into stocks and all that kind of stuff, he's making $5 billion a year to do nothing. To do nothing. Now, $5 billion a year is what he's making. Now you say, well, Don, why doesn't he take it out? Well, here's why he doesn't take it out. He doesn't take it out for two reasons. One, if he takes money out of the market, he has to pay taxes. So you and I pay taxes on what we make.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Buffett only pays taxes on what he spends. The tax code is not fair in the sense that if you make money off money, you don't pay taxes on it. But if you make money off work, you do. Isn't that horrible? Now you say, well, why is the government doing that? Well, the government does that because the billions that he has in the market are actually capital that corporations can use to create jobs.
Facts.
Now, what Warren Buffett does, let's say he wants $100 million. Now, if he takes $100 million out of his stock portfolio, two things happen. One is he signals to all the other people who have invested in his company that he doesn't believe in his company.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking money out. And then they start taking money out, and then his company implodes. So now he's invested. He's incentivized to leave it in the market, right? And what does it do in the market? It creates compound interest, and he just gets richer and richer.
Yeah.
Not only that, if he takes $100 million out, he has to give $20 million to the government.
Yep.
So what he does is he goes down to the bank, and he says, "Look, I've got $100 billion right over there. See it?" And they're like, "Yeah, we see it." And he says, "Can I borrow $100 million against that $100 billion?" And they say, "Heck yeah." Like, you're good for it. And then he pays 4% interest on the $100 million that he borrowed instead of 20% tax on the $100 million he took out.
That's just a whole.
So he is literally, these people are not evil. They're literally just like going, you don't have to be smart to figure that out. You're just like, well, wait a second. If I pull that out, I pay 20 million. If I pull this out, I pay like what, $8,000? And they're like, yeah, well, then I'm going to pull this out for $8,000. So we do have to figure out as a country how to incentivize really wealthy people into what I would do is I'd create an SBA, a Small Business Association fund. And what I would do is I'd guarantee 5% interest if Warren Buffett puts his money in this fund. So now we're competing with the stock market, but small business owners would have access to his capital and he would not be charged any taxes on that capital. In fact, he'd make money on it. Then the rest of us would be able to get to that money, right? But Warren Buffett is not a bad guy. He's just a guy going, look, don't call me bad because I'm rich. All I'm doing is like not doing anything with my money. Literally, that's all I'm doing is not doing anything with it like we should all be doing. So what I love doing, and this book talks about it, is if the rest of us can learn how to do that, which they don't teach in school.
Yeah.
If entrepreneurs can learn how to do that, then you and I can start rolling in millions too. It's really fun, Anthony. If you get into it, it's really, really fun. But the key is, though, you've got to build a business that will make enough money so that when you check your investment holding account, it's going up. And then you can go find those products, those financial products that you can buy to make money without work.
So I have 4. I did not have the investment holding account, and I'll be honest on my own show.
Well, the investment holding it's a temporary account, right? Like you're putting money in it, and when you go, and you're going to have to choose. Like, do you want to put the $50,000 into the stock market, or do you want to say, wait a second, if that gets to 250, I might be able to buy equity in somebody else's small business, or I might be able to buy a duplex, or whatever. You kind of play that game with it, but the money doesn't stay in investment holding because cash in the bank is not making you enough money to compete with inflation. So, that money, you do what you want with, but ultimately at the end of the day, and I mean, at the end of a very short period of time, you end up having a portfolio that is, making you money without, and then as long as you're working and making money and getting your salary and living off that salary, you are getting rich.
Yes, sir.
So what I say is, don't buy the bass boat or the albino tiger or the parakeet that can say cuss languages in foreign language. Don't buy that with the money you make. Buy it with the money your investments make.
Good.
So buy toys and have fun and go on that culinary vacation in Italy where you're eating your way across whatever. Buy that with the money your investments make, because the next year that money is replaced year after year after year after year. And that's how the wealthy live.
That's how they do it. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. I'm sitting here. I'm like, this is what we need. This is the conversation that Black people, the Black community, the minority community, we need to hear. And thank you for literally bringing that conversation to the table, because I mean, it's learning. And I know people are thinking like, well, wait, he said his investment account was able to build his home. There's a whole strategy for that. And we got to bring you back on the show to talk about that, you know?
Well, but the other thing is, like, the only way any of this works is if your business is making money.
That's good.
And so you've got to focus on just the work, you know, what am I doing to make money, to get money to flow down the assembly line, through the 5 accounts into investment holding.
Yeah.
And once you figure that out, you know, then you've got a money-making machine. Your business exists to buy products that make you money without working.
You peep what the white boy did at the end there? He let you know, if you ain't making money, your business ain't making money, all this shit I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes doesn't even matter. Right? And anyway, Buana, you're a money type guy. What did you pick up? Did it make sense to you?
Yeah, it made sense to me. But what it would made more sense to me is the comment section. And I was reading the comment section, and I got a few things from the comment section that I actually agree with. When Harsh Reality talks about David Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki, this is base level. If you don't know who these guys are, you need to see. The whole world want to be rich, but they don't want to study what the rich do. You know, they want to invest in what the rich do to become rich. They just want it to like magically happen, magically appear. And I feel in my mind, if you want to perfect anything, you have to invest some time in the thing that you want to perfect and be good at. So my suggestion is for people who, if you want to be a basketball player, you must invest time in playing basketball. You know what I mean? You have to go practice. Go play basketball for an hour a day. You want to eventually become good at it. If you want to be a baseball player, you have to invest in baseball. You have to go out to the baseball rink and invest in spending time and learning how to hold the bat, how to throw the bat, how to, you know, do all the things. If you want to become a money person, or if you want to be able to be good with money, you have to invest time in being good with money. There are books out here, there are seminars, there are YouTube videos, courses, all manner of different things. 30 minutes to an hour a day. In a year, you will be ahead of most people you know when it comes to money. In 5 years, you should be way ahead of the game. So when Harsh Reality says that most people don't have $600 in their bank account, see, that sounds, if for a person who don't know what to do with that $600, that would be a bad scenario. But if you could take that $600 and double that if you know how to take that $600 and double that $600, the game changes completely. The game changes completely. And most people, yes, they may have $600 in their bank account, but what's the difference between them having $600 to $600,000 if they don't know what to do with that $600,000 in their bank account? I think that's the problem. Most people may have less than $600 in a bank account, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to do with it. That's why I'll remain at $600 in a savings account. Who puts money in a savings account? You know, so this is the issue. You must know what to do with that money. Even if you have that in your savings account, what to do with it. And I think that with us, we need to invest time. The same time we invest in many other things, we need to invest time in studying money, in studying money, how it works, what to do with it, how to use it for different kinds of reasons, you know. And another thing too is what I find very important, because I've been looking for it for a very long time. These rich men don't never talk about tax havens. They don't talk about how to get around paying taxes. They never talk about that in these so-called YouTube streets. And I've been looking for them. Trust me, I've been really looking for them. They don't talk about tax havens, where to put their money, how to hide their money, how not to put their money in U.S. banks where they can't take a certain amount of your money away from you when you're trying to get around paying heavy taxes. They don't talk about it in these YouTube streets. I find it to be fascinating. Even though they'll tell you to invest and how to invest and all these things, they don't tell you about how to hide their money like they do. I guess that's for the special class. Needless to say, I think some of the things he had to say was, these are recognizable things that I know. And it's nothing different from what the Kiyosaki's of the world talk about, and what the Ramses of the world talk about all the time. But I think that we as a community need to invest our time into the study of money, how it works, what to do with it, where to put it. All these kinds of things is out there. And if you living in a world of access, where you can access these kinds of people, you access the information, you use that information to your advantage. You know what I mean? Spend time with it. But as far as I'm concerned, if you making a certain money, you must know how to use it, where to put it, and what to do with it. Whether it's you starting from $600 or you starting from $1,000 or $10,000, you must understand what to do with that money, because it doesn't matter what you earn. At the end of the day, it matters what you keep. What you keep. That's what matters. But I'll leave it there.
Thank you for that, Buana. I'll say this briefly. Most of the people in the world really don't want to have to do, things. They prefer to, have people with the expertise to do it. For example, like here in America, if you have a 401k or 401a or what have you, one of those retirement plans, those things are tied to the stock market, and the way it's done, it's kind of done for you. They sell you, they give you a mix of mutual funds and stocks, and depending on how risk averse you are, they'll change the percentages and stuff like that. That's kind of what most people, the average person who would have 600 in their savings account, like Webb is saying, to save in case something happens to their car, one of their kids gets sick or something like that. Most people would prefer someone with the expertise to kind of control that. And if you look at history, if you look at these white folks, a lot of times that's what they do. There's a guy. This is who Bernie Madoff was, right? The problem is you have some of these people like Bernie Madoff around. One of the things I would have hoped black folks would have gotten some responsible, caring, I guess you could say, kind of a weird thing to say, but caring kind of black folks with the expertise to set up these funds where black folks could put some money into it, builds the fund. They do the, kind of the mutual fund type of thing. They do the investing based on the community's, risk aversion or not. And then let folks kind of benefit from that. Of course, with them getting a fee for their work. I would have hoped someone would have done that by now, because clearly, most black folks don't want to do this thing themselves. All this research and this, that, and the other, all of this conversation that's going over most people's head. Like, where are our folks who have that discipline, who can come through and kind of be the caretakers of these types of funds? But that's just my thought. Only would say. Only's device is not connected.
Yeah, his thing is probably off. Do you know, Coco? Do you know what a Roth IRA is?
Of course, yes, sir.
Okay, look into it. You know what I mean? Look into it. The mutual funds, that's kind of like the worst. It's kind of like the worst investment you could get into. The 401k, they kind of like the worst things you could put your money into. And there's a book by what's this guy name now? Oh goodness, man. He made his book called The Money. Oh goodness, I can't remember his name now. Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins made this book called Money Mastery, the Money something. But he goes over in detail of why 401ks are not the best, or mutual funds. He explained it in detail. It's a big book. And like I say, man, for people who are interested in money, people who are interested in money, the information is there. It's there. You know what I mean? It's like, I understand we want our people to live well and live good, but you got to do some work too. You can't just expect me to put the spoon to your mouth and feed you. You have to do some work too. You have to do a little bit of cooking too. You know what I mean? You can't even in the most fair seeming individual or person, you have to do some work and bring something to the table as well. Even if it's your time and investment in trying to learn how these financial animals work. Because if you go ahead, brother.
Buana, you could like trigger. When I was saying what I was saying just now, the example I meant to give was exactly what Trigger Happy is saying here in the chat. You give your money. I pay you, right? I pay in addition to what I'm investing, I pay you to invest this money in the best way for a return. Again, that's what these white folks be doing. This is how Madoff made off, right? Because a bunch of white folks was giving them their money to manage it for them. Now, he did his bullshit, right? So he's kind of a bad example in a sense. But what I'm trying to say is, where are our folks? This is what Gavi them was trying to do. Where are our folks who say, okay, we're going to develop these industries. We need you folks to fund it. And there will be a return on your investment, right, to enrich the community. I think we have to start thinking that way. I think we got to stop thinking.
I hear you.
Pardon me?
No, I hear you, brother. I hear you, man. I hear you. Boy, let me tell you, boy, Koku, if you lose any of these, see, the truth is, with people like Bernie Madoff, right? He understood the people who invested with Bernie Madoff, even though he was a criminal, people understood that with some of their investments, they gain very much and they lose too. And they have to accept that, hey, you giving me your money, but the markets might not go your way all the time. Now, how I do my investing might go your way 50% of the time, but it ain't gonna go your way 100% of the time. Now, if you lose black people money, that temperament may be completely different from what you suggesting to me right now in the show. I'm telling you, brother. I'm telling you, man. Black people ain't easy, especially if they ain't winning 100% of the time. They ain't easy at all. I'm telling you. But I'll leave it.
I feel you on that, but you're gonna have to cull that herd. You're gonna have to say, listen, it's about, you're talking about financial literacy. Well, give them financial literacy. Let them know that, you won't always get the maximum return on your investment. Sometimes, because that's one of the things you see right now with black folks in the stock market. Black folks be looking at the stock market, and, if they buy a couple stocks and something, they're looking at that shit every day. But that's not how it works. How it works is long term. So that's how you have to. It's the same thing that they're going to go and learn on their own, that the market works over time, that investment works over time. So you might as well, set up the system that I'm talking about, that Keter is talking about, right? That Trigger Happy is talking about, where, people invest and you give them the understanding like, it doesn't always come back at 10%. Sometimes it's 4%. Et cetera, et cetera. And those who have, it's the same thing. Those who have risk aversion, well, then you guys stay out. Call the herd. Only's back.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. Oh, sorry. What you saying?
No, I would say this for people who are risk averse and people who don't want to lose, and at any instance, I would say invest in like local bonds, like whatever, like major thing, like if they building a road or whatever, and the state may need money, buy and risk, invest in bonds and things like that, local for your local area and stuff like that. Invest in those kinds of things where you know you're gonna never lose your money. You're gonna always get your money back with a little certain percent of the interest. These things are less risk averse than you investing in certain corporations and doing things like that. So if you're a conservative person, invest in your local community, your local area, and things like that, where you don't have to play that kind of game, But that's all I wanted to say.
Well, I'll say this. Well, that's what I'm saying. So, my experience with the market is that the market goes down, and it goes down hard. It's not like that's not a like the idea that black people, like a lot of black people can, take that L. But a lot of people that can take that L are rich. A lot of people that can take that L are rich. They don't just have $600 in their bank account. They have $600,000 in their bank account. And when they take an L, they're losing $300,000. But it's like, okay, all right. You know what I mean? You have $600 in your bank and then you lose $300. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm fucked. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that's one of the other issues to it. Because I can talk about how many losses I took, and it's like, yeah, as opposed to like if I was like hurting for money, it would have been like, okay, That said, there's a story from W.B. Du Bois. So he's considered one of the first sociologists, black or white. But W.B. Du Bois writes about the Freedmen Bank. And how black folk used to save their money in the Freedmen Bank, and African Americans used to save their money in the Freedmen Bank, and then the bank just crashed, and they lost all their money. And W. Du Bois is saying that because of that instance, black folk in America don't even hold on to their money anymore. Now, obviously, I think that's bullshit. Obviously, but at the same time, it's like. One of the things about us as a people, we have what you call rotating credit, SUSUs and so forth, right? A lot of times somebody you trust with your money runs away with it, and maybe not all the time, but enough times to where it's like, are you going to just trust somebody with your money? And when we talk about money, we're not talking about, oh, here's $600, right? We're talking about, here's $10,000. Here's $20,000. I want you to invest this, and I want you to bring, like you said, 10% return, right? Then, because like you could go back to the crypto hype, for instance. People would say, hey, this thing is gonna Bitcoin is gonna be worth $100,000 by the end of this year. You know what I mean? Bitcoin is gonna be $200,000 by the end of 2 years, right? And now it's sitting at a nice 25,000, right? And that might sound good, that might sound bad. But the reality is this: if you bought it at 50,000, right, you're down half of what you invested, right? And of course, if you invested in $10,000 or $20,000, you're down 10,000 grand. And it becomes, and like again, like a white person could be like, okay, I'm down 10,000. I took a risk. That's fine, right? A lot of black folk, it's not cool. You know what I mean? It's just not cool. So there is. I think that we should have black people in these markets, but the reality is that because they're unreliable, I think what the white guy said at the end, which was have a successful business, I think that really is the key strategy that a lot of us are missing out on. A lot of us are jumping into these because the thing about what these white people are doing, or what this white guy did, was that he has a successful business, right? And now if you have a successful business, if I was selling a lot of books, I could take my book money and put it in bonds, in stocks, right? And that's kind of the plan. Maybe I should, I need to get something that really hits the market and hits the market running. That's the plan, right? But a lot of us don't have that. What we have is, I want to get rich quick, right? I want to get rich by, I'm going to put, I got $600. I'm going to get rich someday. You're not. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get rich from $600. Unless you're like incredibly lucky. You know what I mean? But the reality is that you're not. So you know, that's really what I would say about that. You know, that's it. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Oni. If there's no last thought,
Yeah, I wanted to respond to something. Harsh reality talk about day trading. I used to be a day trader. Okay, the taxes is kill you on day trading. They kills you on day trading. As far as not being rich on $600 or whatever, I would tell people to invest in things like options. Options trading is something that's good. You know, sometimes it could assist a whole lot with day trading. Well, not day trading, just options is a good facilitator in getting money. But for me, day trading, taxes it's kill you. It's kill you. But that's a whole nother matter. I just leave it there.
I appreciate that, Buana. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. Nice commentary in the chat. Thank you guys. KW Don 7 is still here. He mentioned Jay Morrison. You see, that's the thing. We tend to trust a grifter. You know, people who sound good, but I'm talking about real, like what Trigger Happy said earlier. I'm talking about the real people who are serious about their race. You know, real race first type people. You know, that's what I'm talking about. There should be a group of folks like that. Communities, black communities could look to and ask them, hey, you know, again, it's similar to what Gavi and them was doing, you know. But anyway, KW Don says black folk need more publicly traded companies. I agree with that too. I agree with that. In fact, I agree with that a whole bunch, actually. Should be topic number 3 says, one argument from the fat phobia camp. Hold on. One argument from the fat phobia camp is that one can be fat and healthy, and this is typically determined by genetics. How true is this? And do you agree? This came with a link. This came with 2 links, actually. So let me get the first one. It looks like it's taking us to Twitter. And this tweet is from Not His Piece, Hispanic, I guess. It says, wait till y'all, I guess the tweet was deleted by the author. Oh, that doesn't help. Wait till y'all find out some people are fat regardless of extra physical activity and a healthy, moderate vegan diet because it's just their body. Let me see if this link will take us to, nope. That didn't do it. Okay. So I guess I don't have the original tweet here. Well, some of the comments says, this just confirms my decision to block blue checks on site. The person responds, absolutely a plan. So I'm going to have to ask Trigger Happy 262 in the chat. What did the original tweet say? You post that in the chat. In the meantime, I'll go to the second Twitter link. Hopefully this one is more fruitful. And see what this says. So this is from Nia's looking for a full-time VC job. It says, I ran an academic search on @perplexity_AI, and this is what I found. It is possible to be healthy and fat. It is also possible to lose weight with diet and exercise. However, genes affect how easy or hard weight loss will be. So let's see what these screen captures are about. Okay, how do genes influence weight? I guess this is the prompt that was asked to the AI. Genes can influence weight in several ways. Genome-wide association studies have identified single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs, associated with waist circumference and waist to hip ratio adjusted for body mass index. Polygenic scores comprised of 59 SNPs previously associated with central adiposity fat have been found to predict less of a reduction in blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah with lifestyle intervention. Additionally, genetic variants related to the blood vessels of related to the blood levels of vitamin D have been identified through genome-wide association studies, and emerging evidence suggests that dietary intakes may modify the relationship between genetically determined circulating vitamin D levels and change in bone mineral density in response to weight loss diets. Furthermore, a case study of monozygotic adolescent twins discordant for metabolic syndrome found very different changes in gene expression, including differences in the direction of expression of genes related to immune cell activation, which may underlie the difference in response to weight loss. Overall, genes can influence weight through various mechanisms, including central adiposity, bone health, and immune cell activation. These are pretty long. I'm not trying to read all of them. But it says the idea that someone can be healthy and fat is a topic of debate in the medical community. While obesity is associated with an increased risk of several health problems, including cardiovascular disease and diabetes, some studies suggest that it is possible to be overweight or obese and still be metabolically healthy. For example, a retrospective cohort study found that the metabolically healthy obese group had the lowest incidence of overall dementia and Alzheimer's disease compared to the metabolically healthy non-obese group. However, other studies have found that even if someone is metabolically healthy, being overweight or obese still increases their risk of health problems. It is important to note that being healthy is not just about weight, but also includes factors such as physical activity, diet, and overall lifestyle habits. Therefore, it is possible for someone to be overweight or obese, but still be healthy if they have a healthy lifestyle. Moreover, maintaining a healthy weight is still important for reducing the risk of health problems associated with obesity. Let me see if Trigger responded in the chat. Trigger said, basically, the argument was that Lizzo moves around a lot, so why is she fat? I see. Okay. So that was the original tweet. Let me just go back to something. So the original response to the missing tweet was, wait till y'all find out some people are fat regardless of extra physical activity and a healthy, moderate vegan diet because it's just their body. Okay, so now I get the context better. I'm sure you guys get it better too. Pro Black Perspective says only Buana cares about fat people. This got to be his problem. Nah, it was actually Trigger who posted it. With that said, Shooter Breeze topic number 3 is one argument from the fat phobia camp is that one can be fat and healthy, and this is typically determined by genetics. How true is this? And do you agree? Let me hear what Oni has to say about this first.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's so dumb. I mean, obviously you could be fat and still move around. Or you could be overweight and still capable in some capacity. Maybe not Lizzo capable. Not Lizzo fat, but still, like, for instance, unfortunately, you know, for a while now, especially, you know, with the quote unquote dad bod, I've been quote unquote overweight. And I mean, obviously I could still you know, like chase a bus down if I need to. You know what I mean? or I don't want to say I could do this, but maybe like run from one train station to another, maybe possibly. I don't know. I don't know. Depends on what the stop is, but all the same, like, yeah, you know, nobody who would think like just because your BMI is over a certain number that you are automatically unhealthy. And all them thick women, some of them, they're just heavier because they got, nice shapes, they got nyash, so they're heavier, obviously, or they have shapes, but at the same time, yeah, but like using that, using normal people in the West, by the way, but using normal people in the West to say, oh yeah, well, Lizzo, like, no, Lizzo is fat, like she is unhealthy. Being able to move, I mean, that's the trouble with, I guess, Western society. I think there's a recent trend to like just being really stupid and just really uninformed and out of touch. Like one of the examples I saw was there's this woman who recently has a song where she goes, I got hoes in different area codes, right? And then she's like, what? There's a song like that already? And it's like, yeah. And then people are like, how would she know there's a song? That's a common term. And then people are like, yeah, from the song, But it's like, yeah, there's like this huge disconnect. So people think Lizzo's minimal gyrations constitute physical activity, and it's like, no, anybody could do what Lizzo's doing. Like anybody, really. But because society became so stupid, it's like, wow, look at that fat person doing like not being a total balloon, Now there are obviously some fat people who are just total balloons, but like Lizzo being active and all that, like that's stupid. Like can Lizzo do some real physical, like I said, like, can you, because there was a point in time where I couldn't catch a bus like 5 stops down, you know what I mean? Or 4 stops down, right? But now I can. So it's like, but like there's also like kids who can't do that. Like I remember one time I was racing this kid down, I want to say a Brooklyn like a block, and he couldn't make it the whole block, right? Whereas of course I could jog the, whatever. So it's like, yeah, I think people are just like generally more lazy, generally more dumb, generally less outside, generally less physically active. And so Lizzo doing a little bit of gyrations is somehow impressive to them, but it's like realistically, okay, Lizzo can I actually don't think she can move. I don't know. I didn't see the video. But like, yeah, okay, but she's still incredibly unhealthy. And as far as, is this genetic? No, because Lizzo could obviously lose that weight and look a lot better. Like that other lady, like Moesha or Monique or whatever. I think she lost a lot of weight, or like Oprah, who like lost a lot of weight. There's no such thing as, hey, look, I gotta be fat. No, if you want to, like, you can easily lose weight. And what happened with Lizzo was that she started to lose weight, and then her audience started to pull back and push back against her. And because of that, she decided to stay fat. And it's like she's hurting herself for money, which is just a normal thing in the West. But at the same time, it's like, don't use her as an example of health, because she's clearly not an example of health or intelligence. That's it.
That same thing that you said about Lizzo just now, how she was losing fans when she started to lose weight. That happened to Oprah too, actually. Oprah, as everyone here should know, had the #1 show in the world or whatever, and she started to lose weight and appear on those covers of magazines and stuff, and she started to lose considerable favor for a while there. But something you said earlier in your response, Oni, I think we as Black folks never consider much. But when you look at like BMI charts, clearly those things are not created with Black folks in mind. When you look at BMI charts, they're clearly not created with Black folks in mind. So you'll find a person 6'4", 235, and that's like overweight according to that thing. Because why? He's supposed to be like 200 pounds or something based on that chart. So that's some nonsense too. But
I want to say this though, just to add on to that, muscle weighs more than fat, and so like somebody like Mike Tyson, right, would be considered overweight or obese or what have you, but he's clearly like rock solid muscle. So it's just like the BMI kind of probably has the impression of somebody who was just like skin and bones. And in that case, and you don't know how heavy their bones are on top of that, but and they might have less dense bones on top of that. But it's like somebody who's just skin and bones is going to be considered healthier than the athlete, and the athlete at the same time, because they're muscles, they're going to be heavier, but also obviously more healthy. Generally speaking.
I appreciate that. Let's hear from Buana. Buana, what say you?
Yeah, let me first say that listening to Koku, read these scientific terms like nothing, is put a smile on my face. You know what I mean? Because I love when my brothers, especially my countrymen, of course, are scientifically literate, and they could go through these terms like nothing. I really have to appreciate that. But as far as this fat girl magic, these people are trying to push before people. The reality is that you make your hard work a little bit extra when you have this extra weight on your body. And the truth is, I know people don't like the truth no more. Go lose some weight. Go lose some weight. Your body will thank you. Your body will thank you. And I like thick girls. Thick girls, not fat girls, Erzuli. I like thick girls, but I just think that, this whole idea of fat girl magic is getting out of control now. I understand people want to live the lifestyles they want to live without no consequences, but there are consequences in living these lifestyles. There are no big overweight people in old folks' home. And it's a reason for that. Your heart after a while say, man, I tired of handling this big body fat, and I'm gonna give way. So I just think that your life and your body will thank you when you decide to lose some weight. Go lose some weight. All this cloud chasing is nonsense. All this living a life that we want to live without no responsibility has consequences. And if you don't want to live the consequences of these kinds of lifestyles, you have to micromanage your life and live with a different kind of health consciousness and lifestyle. That's the reality of the situation. But if you want to lie to yourself, go on ahead. Like I say, there are no overweight people in old folks' home. None whatsoever. And it's a reason for that. I'll stop there.
Sorry about that. I had a little technical difficulty just now. All right. With that, then, let's go. If there's no last words, let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 4 for time's sake. But I also want to do a station ID. So what I'll do, I'm going to drop Shooter Breeze topic number 4. Shooter Breeze topic number 4 is going to be, is this program prophecy, or are we the children of the book? I'm guessing the book is the Bible. And have we, or Black Christians, fully tried the Bible way of repentance? This was a very interesting prompt. Wow, that's what we'll be talking about in Shooter Breeze topic number 4. We're going to 11 p.m. tonight. Right now, I want to do a quick station ID break. We'll be back on the other side.
Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion. If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio, a Pan-African nationalist and Garveyite network committed to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
The Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people acquire too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down, it wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They're in a simulation. They're going to keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cassidra Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was going to do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The 4Kast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as, like, your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to,
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the program.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So make sure to check out all those shows on KWAZ Radio. Should it be topic number 4 is this program prophecy, or are we the children of the book? And have we, or black Christians, fully tried the Bible way of repentance? This came with a link taking us to YouTube. Let's watch the video and then we'll discuss it.
Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for joining. When we look around at this crazy, unpredictable, and often dangerous world that we live in, it's really mind-boggling to think that it all evolved from an incident with a tree. Adam ate from a tree, and we died because of his sin. And Jesus Christ, Yeshua, HaMashiach, died on a tree, and through him we live. In fact, the scriptures tell us that Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who is hanged on a tree.
Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. The God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree. Him hath God exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Israel and forgiveness of sins. And we are his witnesses of these things, and so is also the Holy Ghost, whom God hath given to them that obey him.
Now, as you know, one of the major themes of Christianity is the idea of Jesus dying on a cross. And we just read in Acts chapter 5 that he actually died on a tree. Now, it is my contention that the replacement of the word tree with the word cross is not by accident. It's not a coincidence. I believe it was intended to obscure the connection between the Hebrew people, the true Hebrew people in this country and around the world, and their Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, who was also hung on a tree as a sign of a curse. Now, a sign is a token, something that signifies identity. It is proof of identity. It is authentication of identity. In this country alone, Black people, so-called African Americans, were hung on trees by the thousands, lynched by the thousands. And so when you take that into consideration, with the statement, cursed is anyone who hangs on a tree, then it begs a question. Why are we cursed? And the second question, who are we? And so to look at that, I think it's important to take a look at Deuteronomy 28, which outlines the curses that would befall the people of God.
Deuteronomy 28. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee, and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, then all these curses shall come upon thee, and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look, and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy labours shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign, and for a wonder, and upon thy seed for ever, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness, and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. In the morning thou shalt say, Would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, Would God it were morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
So in relation to our topic today, cursed is anyone who hangs on a tree, I wanted to take a look at an article in the Guardian newspaper about how white Americans used lynchings to terrorize and control Black people. That is, so-called African Americans, that is, the Hebrews of the Bible. Well, what are lynchings? Well, historians broadly agree that lynchings were a method of social and racial control meant to terrorize Black people into submission and into an inferior racial social caste. They became widely practiced in the United States, mostly in the South, and roughly from 1877 to 1950. A typical lynching would involve criminal accusations, often dubious, against a Black person. An arrest would be made, and the assembly of a lynch mob intent on subverting the normal constitutional process would take over. Victims would be seized and subjected to every imaginable manner of physical torment, with torture usually ending with the person being hung from a tree. More often than not, the victims would be dismembered, and mob members would take pieces of their flesh and bones as souvenirs before the corpse would be burned. In a great many cases, the mobs were aided and abetted by law enforcement. In fact, a lot of them participated. They would routinely leave Black inmates unguarded in their cells, giving enough time for the mobs to form and seize them and kill them. So what triggered these lynchings? Well, one chief reason among them all was the claim of sexual contact between a Black man and a white woman. The trope of the hypersexual male, Black male, and the chaste white woman was and remains one of the most durable tropes of white supremacy. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, nearly 25% of those victims were accused of sexual assault. Nearly 30% were accused of murder. The mob wanted the lynchings to carry significance that transcended the specific act of punishment, wrote one historian. The mob turned the act into a symbolic rite in which the Black victim became the representative of his group, and as such was being disciplined for more than just a single crime. The deadly act was actually a warning to the Black population not to challenge supremacy of the white race. So how many of these lynchings, these hanging of men from trees and torturing them, took place? Well, because of the nature of the lynchings, it's kind of impossible to know because a lot of the documentation did not occur. For decades, the most comprehensive total belonged to the archives at the Tuskegee Institute, which estimated that about 4,773 people died at the hands of U.S. lynch mobs between 1881 and 1968. According to the Tuskegee numbers, 3,446 of those lynched were Black Americans. So it's a matter of historical record that lynchings or being hung from trees was a big part of our American experience. And that's significant because scripture states, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. So that means we have some questions that we have to answer. Who are we and why are we cursed? Well, I think the explanation for that can clearly be seen in Deuteronomy 28, which sort of brings home our point here. When you look at the curses, I don't think that you see any other people in history or currently who fit the curses which the Lord said would follow them forever, would follow their seed. And so we should be able to look around the world and clearly identify the Hebrew people based on the curses now. I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts from.
All right. Brother Bakari is here in the chat saying peace and black power. I believe I saw the 4Kast in the chat earlier too. I don't know if I shouted you out or not, but shout out to the 4Kast as well. Bakari says he's been listening, but haven't had much time to comment. He says all of his island families is from the tribe of God. Y'all are Gadites, I guess. Oh, Gad, from the tribe of Gad. Y'all are Gadites. Yeah, that's typical Hebrew, Israel type talking here. I messaged Erzuliism while that video was playing for him to come up and explain this bullshit that he's talking here. But Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 is this programmed prophecy. Are we the children of the book? And have we, or black Christians, fully tried the Bible way of repentance? I don't have too much to say about it, but I'll see what Oni has to say. Oni, what say?
What? You think I was? Yeah, okay. Like this is what? Anyway, I know I did some dips. That's what I know I did. What is this thing? Are we the people? No, it's obviously not about like what you think. Like, come on. Like, that's the trouble. Like, when you have the victim mentality, you just think any victim. Like, that's the thing I've noticed. Like, I don't know if y'all picked up on that story, that rat story that Amos Wilson talks about, where he's like, hey, these guys are there's this rat, right? And the rat, there's the experiment with the mice, right? And he's like, we're taught this experiment with the mice about the mice, and we're taught from the wrong perspective. We should identify with the rat and not the scientist. And it's like, no, like, why do you have to identify with the victim? You don't. And it's like, yeah, you know, the mouse is, controlled, and that's the kind of control that we go through. Like, it's a damn mouse. You identify with the person. At minimum, it tells you how to control something, not, oh yeah, I'm the, and that's like, we always have that. And I mean, I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes you might watch something and be like, oh man, I feel for that. Or like, like when they kill the shark, you're like, damn man, these humans killed the shark, and you feel for the shark, it's inhumane or whatever. But it's like, come on, like, come on, like we have just because there's lynchings in the Bible, just because there's this taking people away and all that kind of stuff, don't think that means that it's you. Like, because especially like if you just highlighting the few instances where you could be related, on the other side, you got stories of them conquering Israel or conquering the Palestinians or setting up kingdoms and all that shit. You're not doing none of that shit. So why the fuck would you think that's you? You wasn't taken from that. You wasn't in the like, there's a clear location. We call it the Middle East today. There's a clear location. Let's just say east of Egypt. You clearly not east of Egypt. So why in the world do you think this story is about you? Because it clearly ain't. And it's like all this kind of bullshit is just like, just that, well, it's a victim, so therefore it's my story. You're not the only victim on the planet. And not just that, it's like, stop identifying with the victim. Like, stop it. Oh, well, we hung from trees too. Yeah, it's an effective way to kill somebody. What are you talking about? Like even the guy Jesus was like hung on a pike. Like, like people knew how to kill people back in the day. They still do. Anyway.
While you were saying that, it reminded me of guys like Mark Lamont Hill who always have Palestine in their mouth, right? We always got to identify, like, why? Why must I be out here talking about free Palestine? Because they're under oppression like I was. So what do I have to do with me? You know, but anyway, Buana, go ahead.
I don't understand how my good brother Zuli, maybe he was drinking Prestige or Babenco, where he didn't, when he was creating these prompts, he don't know, he was probably drunk off of that, and he don't know what the hell he was talking about. But let me just remind him. Voodoo is much older than Christianity, much older. So how am I a child, a homosexual named King James, a sodomite named King James, when my religion and faith extends way beyond what his spiritual belief and practices was? So it's ridiculous to say that I am a child of the book he created and fantasize off of, because in his sodomite mindset, when my religion go way beyond that practice ever could have been. And the idea of we curse who? I ain't curse nobody, and I don't feel like I'm a cursed person. You know what I mean? Black men in the grand scheme of things was considered the gods of the universe. How we get from that point to being cursed children of the book is a ridiculousness. It's really ridiculous. You know what I mean? But if that's what, if you don't ride off on the Hebrew Israelite nonsense, man, you go ahead and have fun with it. But my in the grand scheme of things, I feel like this is, like the brother say, is propaganda, and it's an unfortunate propaganda. But I don't fit into none of this. This is not my reality. It's escapism to the highest level. It's escapism to the highest level. And I'm a black man in this universe, in the universe that I live in. And I am a main character in this play called Planet Earth right now. And I don't apologize for it. I am no curse motherfucking person. I don't know where he get that from. I'm not no curse, nothing. You know, the world should be thanking me for my existence here on this planet. Because without my existence on this planet, the white man will still be howling at the moon and drinking their blood through human skulls. So I'm not into it. I'm not into it. Like I say, if brothers don't want to fantasize, they can fantasize all they want. And I ain't got none of that bullshit. None of that bullshit. My religion and spiritual practices has been on this planet long before any Hebrew, Jew, or whatever you want to call it has been on this planet. You know, we define spirituality. And I'm talking from the standpoint, I'm an agnostic person. We define spirituality. So, like I say, these people could fantasize all they want. It's nonsense to me, but it is what it is. I understand we have people who believe these things. My brother, Brother Bakari, say, don't talk about my Christian religion. I ain't talking about Christian religion. I just say that for me, this is fantasy. This is fantasy. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate that, Buana. In the chat, KW Don 7 gives us a Dr. John Henry Clark quote. He says, God doesn't curse anyone because that would make him ungodly. Trighabi 262 Plus says, Christianity will always make you manufacture your origins to be in that Canaan region. Another reason why our spiritual system is important. He goes on to say, when you take on the Abrahamic religions and you get told your ancestors' practices, barbaric practices, you already lost. That historically consciousness is neutered. Partiality Podcast says, yeah, black people acting like they have a monopoly on lynching has always perplexed me. The noose doesn't have a patent on it. Plenty of people, including non-blacks, have met their fate with it. Trighapi says, Eurasians believe in original sin. That was never our worldview. Yeah, that original sin shit is so so preposterous, so much nonsense. It's unbelievable. Now I reached out to Azuli. I waited around for this guy. At the record show, he didn't come through. He was here earlier though. Is there any other last thoughts on this prompt from my panelists? If not, then I guess we will go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 5, which will likely be the last topic tonight. But we'll see. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5 is similar in a sense to what we just had. It says, how can Marcus Garvey or MLK proclaim this? They cursed us and Jesus was cursed. Did they curse us within their created reality? You know what? Let me let Bakari, who just came on. Bakari, you want to add something to the last prompt?
Can you hear me?
Very low, very low.
All right, hold on.
Bakari
Hey, look.
on a walkie.
What's up? Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Look, I still don't have much time, but I don't know how Bawana gonna call me out talking about something. Don't talk about my don't talk about.
No, I respect it, Bakari. Bakari, I respect it. I ain't say nothing bad. I ain't say nothing bad. I respect it. You know what I mean? But these two say we curse, Bakari. They say we curse.
I came on here to say this to my Gadite brothers, Yahweh ben Yahweh Shai. It's crazy for people to just think that they're cursed. Somebody can tell you you're cursed and you just fall for it. That's absolutely asinine. I don't see how that makes sense to anybody. But hey, I'm not trying to tell them no more where they wrong at. But for me, that is absolutely wrong. And for any sane person, I'm going to look into a book and say, see, they lynched us. That means we're cursed. And so everybody who's lynched is cursed, I guess. I don't know. But I just wanted to come in and say that. It makes absolutely no sense. But it makes sense for Azuli to send that to you many times. He say he don't come from no Africa. Azuli is anti-African. So it's okay to be a cursed Hebrew. It's okay to be Aboriginal indigenous, but don't tell him he come from Africa. He's anti-African. So it makes sense if he sent that prompt. It makes sense for him to send that prompt. And on that note, I'm gonna go back and listen offline.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you for passing through, Bakari. Thanks a lot. Zuli, you heard what Bakari said. Now let's see what you got to say. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5. How can Marcus Garvey or MLK proclaim this? They cursed us and Jesus was cursed. Did they curse us within their created reality? I'm not even sure what that really means. But let's watch the video and then we'll discuss it.
For everyone to see that he was executed. But before nightfall, his body must be taken down from that pole. Why? Because a man hanging on a pole is a curse to God. This is what the Bible says. The very symbol of their religion is a symbol of a curse to God. Now do you see why Jews don't want to convert to their religion? The Torah says if a man is executed, he's to be hung on a pole. For everyone to see that he was executed. But before nightfall, his body must be taken down from that pole. Why? Because a man hanging on a pole is a curse to God. This is what the Bible says. The very symbol of their religion is a symbol of a curse to God. Now do you see why Jews don't want to convert to their religion? The Torah says if a man is executed, he's to be hung on a pole. For everyone to see that he was executed. But before nightfall, his body must be taken down from that pole. Why? Because a man hanging on a pole is a curse to God. This is what the Bible says. The very symbol of their religion is a symbol of a curse to God. Now do you see why Jews don't want to convert to their religion? Torah.
All right, there's a short video on it, and they don't allow you to start those things when you want to start them. So I had to play it a couple of times just to make sure everyone gets the gist of it. So this is why Jews don't convert to Christianity. And so this prompt says, how can Marcus Garvey, who was a Christian, or MLK, obviously a Christian, proclaim this against Christianity? They cursed us and Jesus was cursed. Did they curse us within their created reality? I'm still not sure what that means. Buana, can you make heads or tails of this?
No, I would say that Marcus Garvey and MLK were men of that time. Men of that time. Men of the information that they were given to them. Marcus Garvey was a man of St. Anne's Bay. So most what Marcus Garvey knew about spirituality, even though he was a well-informed man, was the spirituality was given to him. The same as MLK too. In his time, now that we have better information, in terms of we don't seek to demonize our religious practices, because we know that in the Caribbean, African spirituality was an outlawed thing. It was outlawed. So, and in MLK's time, we know that African spirituality was seen as a very negative thing. Now we living in a different time now. These men were men at that time, and they were not perfect men. So I don't judge them for not being perfect men. I don't judge them for not being men at that time. I feel like we now, as men of our time, we know better. We know information. We know that the African spirituality is not to be something to be demonized. It's something actually to be venerated. Now, if these people want to go down with white men sitting on poles, calling themselves saviors of the universe, that's on them. But as far as we are concerned, we believe some of us believe in African spirituality, African spiritual practices. And I think that more of the people who are expertise in these kinds of ventures should put themselves out there. Now, me being an agnostic person, I don't delve into the spirituality. I think the people like Trigger Happy them should come out and let their voices be known in this field of endeavor, African spirituality. But I think that Marcus Garvey and MLK were men at that time, as we are men of our time, whether we recognize it or not. So I don't judge them too much for them not being aware as they should have been in the time that they lived in. I think that we could do more with what we have now as it starts today. But that's what I believe.
In the chat, D Webb from the House Ready Podcast says, if this is another Erzuli prompt, you better check on homie. Obviously riding that curse wave heavy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the brother. I don't know what's going on with him. But these prompts kind of surprised me. But I brought them because he posted them. Only would say you to what you've seen and heard.
Like who cares? Like this is why Jews don't convert. I don't give a shit. Like what? Why would I care if the Jews convert to Christianity or not? I guess we probably should relate it to Marcus Garvey and them. But like I still don't get it. If it's a Jewish belief that a guy hanging is cursed or whatever, what's that got to do with Marcus Garvey and MLK? It's not like they were Jews or something. You know, I don't know. I don't get it. It's not like the Jews are like some religious authority or something. But anyway, how can Marcus Garvey had a reason. He said basically man is fundamentally religious, or like people are already religious. And I don't think people are naturally religious, but I do recognize that people are generally religious already. So he was just like, look, if people are religious, it's kind of like what I think it was Bakari, matter of fact, I think it might have been yesterday, where he was like, he heard some brother talking about how he's going to meet his people where they are. And so if his people are majority capitalist, he's going to be capitalist. People are majority socialist, they can be socialist. And it's like, that's what Marcus Garvey's like Marcus Garvey's like, people are majority Christian. Some will be Christian. It's not like he was, he just recognized, look, The people are going to church. You know, the people got one social institution. They got one institution in the entire freaking Americas, right? Pretty much, you know, well, a handful of businesses, but like definitely a whole bunch of churches. And it's like, yeah, people are religious. So that's Marcus Garvey's excuse. MLK's excuse is that his father was a pastor. Like, and not just his father was a pastor, he probably grew up in the church, and the church gave him some good opportunities to be a freaking leader, you know, to practice his leadership skills. It's like a lot of us kind of don't like, one thing is like a lot of us don't really recognize that the church also provides, you know, not just leadership training, but also like entertainment opportunities. Like if you want to be a drummer, you can go to church and drum, or if you want to be a singer, you can go to church and sing, you know. Unlike, you know, generally speaking, you can't sing or drum anywhere, you know what I mean? Like generally speaking, like maybe in school, but once you get out of school, you really can't. So I'm saying all that to say that yeah, I think this question is just kind of weird because one, it's just some Jews saying I don't follow Christianity, which we already knew, and then two, it's like I don't know. I mean, MLK and Marcus Garvey had their reasons based on the context, and then as far as Jesus was cursed and did they curse out, like what is he talking about? You know, sorry, but I don't. Like I said, the only thing I could say is Marcus Garvey had a reason, MLK had a reason. But like Marcus Garvey, when you read Message to the People, you realize he's not your typical Christian. You know, he believes in a black Jesus and a black, you know, all that. And then he also kind of believes in a God that is supreme intelligence. You know, so I don't know if I would say it's a Gnostic view, but it is a different, like it's not the same Christianity that most of us have, not that God-fearing whatever. It's more like, you know, God is the creator, and therefore you in the image of a God is, you are also a creative, and you being creative is your expression of religion. You know, so he was kind of like usurping Christianity, but like, you know, coding his language in Christianity in order to make it palpable to a bunch of Christians. You know what I'm saying? And then the ultimate test of this was when Carlos Cooks came into the UNIA, and he was highly atheistic, and the UNIA was pushing back against him because of the fact that he was an atheist, and they felt like UNIA was a Christian organization. Marcus Garvey gave him the thumbs up, like, yeah, do you know what I mean? Don't go by the Christianity. That's not the important part. The important part is that you're getting shit done for black people. You know what I mean? And that's really what it comes back to. Kind of like I said, Brother Bakari was saying, you know, it really comes back to, are you doing for black people? You know, and the thing about Marcus Garvey and MLK, you know, regardless of their religion, they were doing for black people. And that's all I can say.
Yeah, I think we gotta stop. Trying to explain away Garvey's Roman Catholicism. Man, he was a Catholic. Message to the People is one aspect of how he viewed it, and sure, he talked about a black Christ and all that stuff. But if you read other things, he definitely was a Christian dude. And I think the issue with it is that some will have, and I think that's probably where this prompt is coming from, is the idea that you still had your people, regardless of the other works you were doing, you still had your people chained to this, what only has termed this worship against you, this thing that fundamentally binds you, right, under the foot of these people. And I think we just got to be honest about it, because I've never read, to my memory, where Garvey pushed any, and this is where gassed them up and them would start talking, I guess, where Garvey said anything about African spirituality. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember that being the case. As far as MLK goes, KW Dawn 7 is right on it. I mean, let's be honest. MLK them was being handled too. Yeah, they did some stuff, but that Christianity stuff was also way. In fact, that Christianity stuff was how he was able to really push that non-violence thing too. You know what I mean? So it's like we got to be real about these things. And I think that's what the prompt is trying to get at. But Razuli don't know how to write. I don't understand Razuli.
I personally.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I personally think that the difference between the reason why he was a different kind of Christian is that they use the Christianity as a tool and they weaponized it. They weaponized, just like Nat Turner. They weaponized it and they use it as a tool that was different from what their oppressors was talking about. Now, one could say that you shouldn't use it and you should throw it away. But if you could use it as a tool to weaponize it for in terms of your liberation, I understand why they would use it because if 90% of the people in the West was talking like that, was dealing with these just like Elijah Muhammad used Islam and weaponized it. He weaponized it. So I understand the ideas behind it. But I'm saying that they were men at that time. And now we are living in a different time. So I don't think that we need to use these tools. I think that there are other tools we could use to weaponize, to influence the minds of our people to go a different kind of way.
But Bwana, you're saying that they're men of that time. Well, what time is Cooks from?
Cooks was after Garvey. But even though we had what's the guy's name?
If you listen to what we just said, Cooks wasn't really after Garvey. Cooks came in at the end of Garvey, right?
But Cooks wasn't embraced like Garvey because Cooks didn't business with the religion at all. So I feel like that, and this is another reason we was talking about the Black Socrates. I can't remember his name now.
Hubert Harrison, I think.
Hubert Harrison, with all his intelligence in the world, didn't understand his audience. And if he understood his audience, he could have used the religion. You don't have to believe in this shit. You know what I mean? You trying to get free. So if you have to use that as a tool to get free or as a part of your liberation, use it. Use it. People use Jesus Christ for all manner of things. People use Jesus Christ to get rich. Why don't you use that as a tool for your liberation? You don't have to believe in that shit. You know what I mean? You don't got to. But you understand where your people are and understand your audience and use it if you must. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like, because like what Koku said about, hey, Marcus Garvey never says something about African religion. And it's like, yeah, if you realize, like one of the things I noticed, like when I used to talk to people on the streets and all that stuff, is I would mention Malcolm X, and the thing that really struck them, that made them repulsed by Malcolm X, was the fact that he was Muslim. Like when we're in the conscious movement, we kind of don't see it. But if you go back to the pedestrian level, if you will, people don't want to, like even African Americans don't want anything to do with people who are not Christian. People who are Muslims, they don't want anything to do with it. Like that whole Pat Robertson thing, as much as we might be like, hey, fuck that guy Pat Robertson for saying what he said about Haiti, a lot of Black Christians were like, yeah, he's right. They shouldn't be doing voodoo. You know what I mean? Yeah, they made a pact with the devil. So if you understand your audience, no, you're not going to be talking about African spirituality, right? If you understand the average African American, particularly in 1914, 1918, you're not talking about African spirituality, even if you're aware of it. Now, I do know that Garvey had a bust of the ancient Egyptian thing, right? But as far as talking about the different spiritual systems inside of Africa, I think that one, that's really limited information during 1914, because Africa at the time was colonized, and the propaganda coming from the West, it was really the predominant message. And I think we kind of underrate the importance of going to Africa, and I realized that I might have underrated it too, which is why, like, you know, coming back from Africa, I feel like a new person, you know, because I think when you're looking at Africa from afar, a lot of what you're looking at is Western propaganda, you know, and as much as you might know that Western propaganda is bullocks, you're still looking at Western propaganda, right? As opposed to looking at it through your own two eyes. And I think actually our boy, our brother, Carl Hezekiah, we were just talking about it on Twitter like just a few moments ago. But it's like, yeah, like realistically, when you're there in Africa, you realize, you know, a lot of what we think about Africa is just, you know, is just really, it's like really, it's just propaganda. All the same, what I'm saying is that, you know, Marcus Garvey, said differently, Yoruba comes to America in 1970 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like Yoruba gets a strong presence in America during the 1970s. That's not to say that Martin Delaney didn't travel to Africa and report back about the Yoruba people and how good they were, right? But it's more to say that realistically, like us talking about African spirituality in the United States of America was a very recent phenomenon around the time of the Nation of Islam, you know? So even us talking about Islam in America was very limited to like a few, like an academic few, like Blyden, for instance, right? But like most black, like the idea of a black Muslim wasn't even a thing in America until the Nation of Islam type thing, you know? Maybe you had the Masonic Temple, but again, that was also after Garvey. So it's like, yeah, Garvey, like even if you were well informed about the Yoruba and all that kind of stuff, there were no quote unquote Yoruba in America at that time. Now, obviously, you could say there were Yoruba in Brazil. Obviously, you could say there were this, and so forth. But when you're talking about the African Americans at that point in time, like right now, African Americans are probably the most cosmopolitan. Well, maybe not, but like seemingly they're pretty well informed about the globe, right? But going back to 1915, you know, again, this is during the lifetime or during the ending of the lifetime of Booker T. Washington. When you read Up From Slavery, you realize that African Americans were kept pretty damn backwards, right? And Booker T. Washington like really did some intense work to like even get literature, even get black people sleeping on beds. You know what I mean? At that point in time, they were like sleeping on the floor of their own houses. So it's like, yeah. So I think, you know, we can say in, you know, retrospect, why did this guy not, you know, why did he not explore Yoruba faith? Or why didn't he do a Khan faith? Right. And it's like at this point in time in 1914, you have the Gold Coast. You don't have a strong, you know, Twi culture. You don't have any of that stuff. You just have the Gold Coast. You just have colonialism. You just have world wars brewing. It's not a like, I don't think I think that if you put it into context, it's like, yeah, I could see why Marcus Garvey didn't do that. You know, even if he knew about it, which is, it's hard to say that he would have known about it, but even if he did know about it, I think it would be very hard. Like, I think it would make a lot of sense why he would be like one of the only people to know it at that point.
Yeah, I think I'll take the last word here because I do want to do one more, the last topic. We have about 20 minutes. I will say this. I will say, if you're talking back to Africa, I think you should consider. I think those things needed to be considered. I understand, like Trigger says in the thing, some of African spirituality was probably suppressed. I do remember your point about Booker T trying to encourage black folks to get up off the damn ground. At the same time, I think in the work that you're doing, you should be it should have been considered, especially with a brilliant person like Garvey. You should be injecting, you know, a hint of or the idea of, you know, even if you had to use the idea of syncretism and how, listen, we had to hide our systems in this Christianity stuff to survive, but let's go back and unravel that, right? I do think that should have been discussed. And so when gassed him up and them say, well, Gavi never really spoke of anything African, I think, I believe he is talking about that particular point, but that's just my thoughts. We could bring that topic back in the future if you want to go on longer about it, but let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 6. Shoot the Breeze topic number 6 tonight. Last topic for the night. Are y'all really in this to fight? Do you understand how deep and intricate your oppression is? Again, whenever you read a prompt like that, you already know where it's from. This is taking us to TikTok. Hopefully, it allows me to play it. Looks like it will, because I don't have TikTok. So, maybe it won't. Let's see.
2021. Along the bottom right, this is the history of America, starting in 1607 to 2021. Along the bottom right here, this is the prison graph.
The dates are numbers.
This is the lynching graph. About critical race theory, let's talk about that. This is the history of America, starting in 1607 to 2021. Along the bottom right here, this is the prison graph. This is the prison graph. This is the lynching graph. Up here, this is the roster of Supreme Court personnel that we've had on the court since the beginning. It's really hard to call them justices. In 1865, we passed the 13th Amendment. Abraham Lincoln makes a deal with slave owners. Slavery is abolished unless you're arrested for a crime. We can all agree that happened 156 years ago. The NAACP started keeping track of lynchings in 1882. I found far more lynchings. The lynchings end in 1965 when Dr. T.C. Donald puts his name in the Alabama Amateur Star and says, we'll put up $20,000 to find the killer of Willie Brewster. The same thing happens here. When Jimmy Lee Johnson is murdered on Bloody Sunday, no news. When James Reed is murdered, it's on the front page of every single newspaper in America. Let's stay focused. Let's take a look at the prison industry here. Let's take a look at this prison industry. Goes here. Here's the first spike in the prison industry during Prohibition. See that? Here's the next spike in the prison industry right here. What happened? What happened? Why does the prison industry spike so badly in 1968? Because of Terry v. Ohio. Let's go back. Which states left the Union in 1860 to 1862? Which states left the Union? Those states were Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. The top states today that incarcerate the most people and force them into indentured servitude are Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. The 13th Amendment says you can't have slaves unless they're arrested and put in jail. The top prison states in America are the same states that seceded from the Union that could rearrest black people and make them a slave again. The Supreme Court, in a case called Hodges versus United States, they ruled, it's not an opinion, they ruled that the 13th Amendment cannot be amended or added to in any way. That was 113 years ago. Maybe it's time for judicial review for Hodges versus United States. Maybe it's time that we amend the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery in America now and forever. Whether you are convicted of a crime or not, you are not a slave. That's the result. And notice when the prison industry really takes off. When the lynchings come to an end, 4 years later they pass Terry v. Ohio, and then the prison industry takes off like a rocket.
All right. That was that. The prompt says, hold on. Should it be topic number 6 says, are y'all really in this to fight? Do you understand how deep and intricate your oppression is? Only, what did you get from that video in relation to the prompt?
Well, damn, I thought you were going to play it twice. I mean, obviously, typical 13th Amendment. I heard about the 13th Amendment, back in, I think, junior high school, So, like, I've always known about this. Yeah, the slavery is prohibited unless under punishment of law, and so they're going to imprison you more in order to enslave you more. Yeah, I mean that's like I said, I think the trouble is that people get dumbed down. Like I said, I was in junior high school, or it could have been high school, but I think it was junior high school. And there was like an Amnesty International school group, and I joined it. And they showed us convict leasing as related to plantations. You know how similar they were to plantations. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like what do, like I said, like sometimes you could look at it from a victim mentality, and sometimes you could look at it from a realistic perspective, which is, yeah, they will give you forced labor because otherwise you just get a hot and a cot, 3 hots and a cot, for free. You know what I'm saying? Like like for instance, there's this video, there's a picture circulating, black folk hating on this other black guy, and they're calling him an immigrant for it. But he basically sees this older woman going to her ATM machine. So he walks up next to her with a handgun, and it's like, give me your money, right? And he gets her with money because obviously he has a handgun to this lady, right? And yeah, you put him into prison, right? You put him into prison. He's clearly a social menace. You put him into prison, right? Do you now he has 3 hots and a cot, right? Now it's not a comfortable cot and it's not good hots, right? But it's free, right? So why don't you work him? You get what I'm saying? Why doesn't he do something, like, he's a man? Why doesn't he do something productive? And so I'm not saying that I'm not going to say that that's my perspective, right? But what I'm saying is that, let's say if I were a white person, right? If I were the European who was arresting this punk, right? Why would I not want this person working? Now, obviously, it's an abused system. Obviously, especially at one point in time, a lot of black people who were arrested for things like vagrancy, or like were arrested for trying to vote, or arrested for just arrested for anything, right? And therefore, obviously, prison sentences are inflated, especially among African Americans, in order to get them to this free labor loophole, right? But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, like if we just realistic about what this American project was, right? This American project was basically, how can we get free labor from these Africans? And I think we have to just come to terms with that's the, like, I think it was I don't like to cite him too much, but I mean, yeah, right, whatever. But like, I think we just have to come to terms with the fact that we're in a colonial situation, and this is what the colonizer does. And until we come to terms with that, like, it almost becomes ridiculous. Like, okay, what did you think a colony was?
Appreciate that, Oni. Brother Bakari on this says, I agree with you on this one, Koku. Drew Ali got people walking around saying they're Moors 100 years later. Could have been the same thing if Garvey spoke about African spiritual systems, I guess. Buana, what say you to what you saw and what Oni had to say?
Yeah, I would say to this prompt and the person who wrote this prompt that we are in this fight, just like how Dessalines was in the fight, just like how Pétion was in the fight. And even if we have to eat bonbon de terre, and he know what that means. Just like if we have to eat that, we gonna do that because we in this fight for freedom and liberation. And it is what it is. It is what it is. And we ain't running away. We gonna have to deal with it how it need to be done. And whatever consequences come from that, it come from that. It come from that. We ain't gonna accept to be the stooges of the world history. We ain't gonna accept to be in the world clowns of world history. We accept being men in this world, and we accept to stand up and do what we need to do, whatever that means, whatever that means. So we understand how deep and intricate oppression is, but we still want to fight for this unknown thing of what liberation and freedom means. and whatever consequences come from that, we willing to accept that. So understand that this the kind of person you're dealing with. You know what I mean? You know, you're dealing with the YouTube folks and the Twitter folks or whatever. From time to time, you're gonna come up against and you're gonna meet with people who really believe and mean what they say. When we trying to fight for this idea of liberation and freedom, we actually mean that. We ain't playing around. We ain't playing around. It ain't just talk, brother. There are some brothers who actually believe these kinds of things. Are we willing to do what it takes to gain and achieve these kinds of things? So I just want you to know that. And you know fully well that coming from your background and history, there are these kinds of men that exist. There are these kinds of men that exist. So don't be surprised when you see and hear from these kinds of men. I understand that, you know, you have to question them to see if they're really about that life, but some of us are really about that life. So just recognize that from time to time that these men do exist. We ain't playing around. We ain't playing around, but I'll leave it there.
Oni, you want to add any last thoughts? Juan, any last thoughts? Because this is the last topic for the night. If not, we'll end it there.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate your brother. You know, we ended it early again. You know, it's 10:51, but it's again ready again. We just getting into it. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the time, brothers, and I appreciate the all the information that was given tonight. So I'll leave it.
All right. Oni, you want to shout anything out this week? Oni may have stepped away. Bonnie, want to shout anything out this week?
Oh, yeah, dang, I was talking. I was on mute, sorry.
Go ahead, Oni.
Oh, okay. I was gonna wait for Bonnie. But yeah, I mean, I just want to relate you know what we're talking about. Like I think the last topic on Garvey and Zora, like I think Trigger Happy mentioned Zora Neale Hurston was talking about this. And I think one of the things we're kind of not relating is that Garvey was the biggest celebrity of his time. You know what I mean? Like before him was obviously Booker T. Washington, who was the biggest celebrity. Marcus Garvey was the biggest celebrity of his time. And so what, like sometimes I think it was Malcolm X who says, anytime you see somebody who's more successful than you, they're doing something you're not doing. Right. And when it comes to Garvey, part of his success was that he went with the Christian route. And that's just generally speaking, like why is, like, you could sit down and be like, hey, look, Buana is much smarter than Creflo Dollars. Okay. But why is Creflo Dollars, you know, more influential in the Black community than Buana? And is it intelligence? No. Right. It's because he went the religious route. And the same with regard to, you know, why Beyonce versus so on and so forth. And even as much as we might not like this lady, Cardi B said, hey, look, I could do conscious music, but nobody wants to listen to that. They want to listen to Ratchet. So I give them Ratchet. You know, if you guys were buying conscious music, I'd make conscious music. Right. So when we talk about, you know, the example of, oh, well, Zora Neale Hurston was talking about hoodoo. Like, yeah, sure. Who the fuck was Zora Neale Hurston while she was living? Because literally she really was nobody while she was living. What happened was she was revived during the feminist movement. And so people started to read her like, oh, wow, this lady was pretty good. But during her lifetime, nobody gave a shit. And that's the trouble, where it's like, yeah, you had your Garvey. I mean, you had your
I don't think it's so much about the heights that Zora reached in her life. I think it's about the idea that she was writing about and talking about and studying the fact that there were Black folks in the South who was practicing hoodoo, right? And during the time of Garvey. And so I think the idea is that, you know, you could have latched on to that. You could. It's not just. It's just not returning repatriation to Africa, but it's also repatriation to being African. And so I think that there should have been, and maybe it was overlooked, and I'm not gonna bury the brother for it, but to fully go along with the Christianity jive, when there were clearly people at the time in the South and whatnot who were still holding on to some remnants of what would be some African spirituality, and not talk about like, we got to get back to, not only return to, but also get back to our spiritual systems. While promoting Catholicism, I think that very strange. I feel like it's odd. So it's not about at her height. It's about the fact that she was actually interacting with people who were practicing African spiritualities. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. It's like, I want to say that it's not to say that there wasn't somebody trying that. There wasn't somebody doing that. You get what I'm saying? Like, we don't know who was doing it because we're in a Christian country. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like how a lot of us never heard of Carlos Cooks. A lot of people never heard of Carlos Cooks. Or a lot of people never heard of the Yoruba society that was parallel to the Nation of Islam. Or I was reading through the FBI papers the other day, and there was this other black radical group that nobody's ever freaking heard of. Nobody's ever mentioned it ever since then, but they were on the FBI's radar, right? The whole thing I'm saying is that there was, I'm not 100% sure, but there was a person who was doing exactly what you're saying. The point is that the reason why we know Garvey is because he had the good sense or had the wherewithal to say, you know what, at the end of the day, there's right and there's effective. You know what I mean? And being effective, like, he prioritized being effective. And today we might look back and be like, why didn't you go right? And it's like, well, that's what it is. And it comes back to, like, for instance, if we're talking about like how is Tariq Nasheed more popular than this person, or how is that person? It's not because they're right. It's because they're effective. They understand, hey, look, like, for instance, I know African Americans want to hear victim mentality. I know African Americans want to hear, oh man, you're the best. Oh man, you guys are so great. I know that's what they want. And I know, hey, if I were to do that, if I were to say, hey, African Americans are the best freaking demographic, blah, blah, and I were to be like, hey, white man is so bad and African Americans are the best, and blah, 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 right? I know that would be effective. I know if I was talking about basketball and I was talking about this and that and so on and so forth, or if I just, did all this stuff, I know that's more effective.
Shit, Oni, you could, if you want to get 1,000 members, you could be a passport bro. I mean, listen, man. You could be a passport.
Just showing off black women's butts all day. I could do that.
Yeah, you could be just have thousands of people come into your room.
You used to be like, hey, look at this shorty over here on like, I saw this video of who has the best ass on TikTok, and they showed two different sisters, and this video had 540,000 likes, 540,000 views in a couple of days. Obviously, if you were to just do that, you know what, and so what Marcus Garvey wasn't doing that per se, but there was, like, he had to make some compromises. And I'm not saying that he was or wasn't Christian, I don't know, but sometimes you have to make some sort of compromise. You can't go perfect, because the reality is this, that black folk not interested in it.
So then we should just continue the Christianity talk then. Because
I mean, if you want to, sure, but I wouldn't. But I'm saying that if you wanted to be effective, yeah, the most effective route would be the Christian route. Yeah.
What I would say is, I would ask the question: how is it that Jim Jones was able to take 900 people to Guyana and end up killing them? How was he able to do that? Exactly. He started with Christianity. He was a Christian minister, and gradually through gradualism, he turned them same people from Christians to socialists to communists, and at the end of the day, they was willing to murder themselves off of that belief in him.
They just did that in Kenya.
If he was able to use that religion to gradually influence their minds in something, it's like I say, man, you could weaponize this thing. You could weaponize it and use it as a tool to influence your people into understanding different kinds of things. It's an entry. I consider Christianity to be an entry point. Since that's their foundation, I consider it to be an entry point into other kinds of things. Now he used it for nefarious reasons. I figure with my own people, I can use it for productive reasons, but it could be used purposefully. I believe.
Yeah, black people 90% Christian. But all right.
I personally disagree with y'all on that because if it was so, someone would have done it. And as a person who grew up in the Christian church, that book, which is why I think Arzuli was alluding to earlier, that book has its ways and means of curtailing. I mean, just the idea that this book tells you, listen, you see your oppressor, don't bother with him while you're on earth. Just wait till you die. Just the fact that it says that type of shit, you're not going to get anyone. And I like what D-Web said here. If by effective you mean attracting a bunch of useless lemmings, half of whom would turn on you the moment you stop being entertained, then yes. Yeah, that's all that is. But if you really want to get people who are going to go back and help make Africa strong, is not going to be through these bullshit religions that conquered you. Anyway.
Well, I would just say this: Marcus Garvey's UNIA, they were effective people for the liberation struggle. Like, they weren't necessarily lemmings. I think they were actually really effective, and probably, and I think it's arguable that the UNIA was the most effective non-national black organization on the planet.
I feel you on that. No, I feel you on that. I'm sure there was some people who followed these religions who did good work. I'm certain of it, in fact. But as for our people overall, I don't think the Christianity or the Islam shit is good for us, and I don't think we should be trying to garner those folks towards the work that's necessary to be done. Let me just read the chat real quick. Keto says, the crowd, read that book. Okay, maybe he teed that up earlier. I don't think so. Trigger Happy 262 says, this gets into our understanding of the light at the end of the tunnel versus the transition. Again, we have hindsight, but in our transition, we have to ease people into the end goal too. I read that from Hash. Trigger Happy 262 says, he was running an apocalyptic. Oh, he's talking about Jim Jones. Was running an apocalyptic New Age religion. Garvey was running a mass movement. Keto says Jim Jones used religion. Religion plays on emotions. Lastly, Trigapi says, basically in a post-revolutionary Africa, do you guys still want African people to still be Christian? Or are we going to have a plan to change that? It's all about transition and end goal. I think we could discuss that more in a future prompt. So anyone who wants to post that prompt can do that. With that said, though, I'll ask again as we're ending out the show. We got 2 minutes or so left. Buano, what do you want to shout out this week?
Yeah, this was a very good discussion. Very, very good discussion. I really enjoyed it. Shout out to my cousin who I had to bury early today. You know what I mean? She was a beautiful soul. She's with the ancestors now. So I appreciate her for coming and giving me her time. So shout out to her. But I'll leave it.
Appreciate that, Buana, and I'm sorry for your loss, for real. Oni, you doing your show in the morning? Tell us about it.
Yeah, sorry for your loss, Buana. No, I think I'm gonna finally like I said, there's effective things and then there's, things you want to do, I guess. So I'm going to finally tackle that, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. That's not effective. I know black folk ain't really interested in books. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in books. A handful of people might be, but like really like, honestly, it's like, yeah, I could just be like, hey, look at these women's bodies. And that would be more effective. But I don't go that route per se. Like, you compromise somewhat, but you don't compromise entirely. And I think, Garvey did say, Garvey did show us that you can compromise and then still be effective. And so I think that's just something that we could just take from that. And, I kind of compromised a little bit, like I dumbed down my language a lot. So, like that's that. So anyway, but that's all I can say.
I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys in the chat who were here tonight. Ketter, Trigger Happy 262, Brother Bakari, D-Web from the House Rally Podcast. The Matron was here earlier. 4Kast Radio was here. Jonelle, Daily Affirmations by Pauline was here. And Erzuliism was here, of course. If I missed anyone, I apologize. KW Don 7. But I think I got everyone who was here tonight. Good conversation. Good conversation. We'll be back at it next week. So you guys stay tuned. Check out all the other shows in the meantime. All right? Until next week, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.